The voice on channel 16 knew what I was going to say 3 seconds before I pressed transmit. I'm a fire lookout for the Kaibab National Forest in northern Arizona. Been doing it for 6 seasons now, every summer from May through September. The job is simple. Sit in a tower, watch for smoke, radio it in. Most days I see nothing but ponderosa pine and occasional elk. That's the appeal. Solitude, silence, a break from everything that comes with living around people. The tower is called Swamp Point Lookout, sits at 8,200 feet elevation, 12 miles from the nearest maintained road. I hike in with 70 pounds of gear every rotation: food, water filters, batteries, propane canisters, a few paperbacks. The Forest Service provides the radio, the solar panels, and a laminated list of protocols that haven't changed since the 90s. Everything else is on me. My rotation is 10 days on, 4 days off. I keep a log, record weather conditions, visibility range, smoke sightings, wildlife activity, standard procedure. During fire season, I check in twice daily on channel 16.8 in the morning and 6 in the evening. The dispatcher's name is Patricia. She's been doing this longer than I've been alive. Her voice is steady, professional, no small talk. I appreciate that. She knows I'm up here to get away from conversation. The tower itself is a 14 by 14 foot cab sitting on top of a 70-foot steel frame. The cab has windows on all four sides, a small propane stove, a cot, a wooden desk bolted to the floor, and not much else. There's a metal shelf on the west wall where the radio lives. Everything is functional, nothing is comfortable. That's the point. It was the third week of July, 2023, my second rotation of the season. Weather had been dry for weeks. No storms, no lightning strikes. Just clear skies and that hazy heat shimmer you get over the canyon rim in the afternoons when the temperature pushes past 90. Visibility was excellent. I could see all the way to the Vermilion Cliffs on a clear morning, about 40 miles northeast. The radio lived on that metal shelf, plugged into the solar battery backup. Motorola two-way, Forest Service issue, built like a brick. I kept it on all day. Channel 16. Most of the time, it was silent. Occasionally I'd hear chatter from trail crews working the southern section or other lookouts calling in their evening reports. The voices came through distant and crackling, barely audible over the static, but Patricia always came through clear. On July 22nd, I woke at 6:30 in the morning like always, made coffee on the propane burner, ate oatmeal with dried fruit, logged the weather conditions in the notebook: clear skies, wind from the southwest at 5 knots, temperature 58 degrees, and climbing. Then I sat in the wooden chair facing east and waited for 8 o'clock. At 7:57, I picked up the radio. Didn't press transmit yet, just held it, watched the second hand on my wristwatch tick toward the hour. I'm precise about check-in times. Patricia expects it. At 8 exactly, I pressed the transmit button. Swamp Point to base, morning check-in. Standard call. I'd said it hundreds of times over 6 seasons. Patricia's voice came back immediately. Copy, Swamp Point. Conditions? Clear skies. Visibility 15 miles. No smoke. Copy that. Enjoy the quiet up there. Will do. Swamp Point clear. I set the radio back on the shelf, poured myself another cup of coffee, opened one of the paperbacks. I'd brought some thriller about a submarine. Routine. At 8:03, the radio crackled. Swamp Point to base. Morning check-in. My voice. Same intonation, same cadence. Exact. I stared at the radio. Patricia's voice responded. Copy. Swamp Point. Conditions? A pause. Then my voice again, coming through the speaker. Clear skies. Visibility 15 miles. No smoke. Copy that. Enjoy the quiet up there. Will do. Swamp Point clear. I set the coffee mug down, stood up, walked over to the radio. It sat there on the shelf, silent now except for the faint hiss of static. I looked at the transmit button. I hadn't touched it. My hand had been on the coffee mug the entire time. Could have been some kind of recording, a feedback loop, solar interference messing with the signal. I didn't know enough about radio technology to rule it out. I made a note in the log. 8:03 in the morning, possible signal echo or feedback. Heard morning check-in repeated verbatim approximately 3 minutes after initial transmission. I went about my day, glassed the forest with binoculars every hour, checked the horizon for smoke, read my book, made lunch freeze-dried beef stroganoff that tasted like cardboard. At 6 in the evening, I did my second check-in. Patricia responded normally. No issues. I signed off and made dinner. And that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The voice had been perfect. Not just similar, perfect. The same slight hesitation before visibility. The same way I clipped the end of clear. I've listened to recordings of myself. I know what I sound like. That was me. The next morning, I woke at 6:30. Same routine. Coffee, oatmeal, weather log. At 7:55, I picked up the radio early. Decided to test something. At 7:58, 2 minutes before the scheduled check-in, I pressed transmit. Swamp Point to base. Morning check-in. Patricia came back, her tone slightly different. Swamp Point, you're early. Everything okay up there? Yeah, just couldn't sleep. Figured I'd call in. Conditions are clear. Visibility about 20 miles. No smoke. Copy that. You need anything? Negative. I'm good. Check in again at 6 tonight. Roger. Base clear. I set the radio down and waited. Watched the clock. At exactly 8 o'clock, the radio crackled. Swamp Point to base. Morning check-in. My voice. Same as before. But this time, it said the words I'd been planning to say at 8 before I decided to call early. Patricia didn't respond. The channel stayed silent. Just static. I grabbed the radio. Base, this is Swamp Point. Do you copy? Patricia's voice came back after a few seconds. Swamp Point, I copy. You already called in at 7:58. Is there a problem? Did you hear a transmission just now? At 8 exactly? Pause. Negative. Channel's been quiet since your last call. I looked out the windows. The forest stretched in every direction, empty, silent, just burned pine and morning light. Copy that, I said. Must have been hearing things. Swamp Point clear. I wrote it in the log, dated it, timed it, radio transmitting at scheduled check-in time, even when check-in completed early, transmission not received by base, possible equipment malfunction. For the next 3 days, I experimented, called in at random times. 7:45, 8:15, 8:30, different times every morning, and every single day, at exactly 8 o'clock, the radio would crackle and my voice would come through, saying whatever I'd planned to say at that moment, word for word. On July 26th, I decided to stay completely silent during the 8 o'clock window, didn't pick up the radio, didn't even think about what I'd normally say, just sat in the chair and watched the clock. At 8 exactly, the radio crackled. Swamp Point to base, morning check-in. My voice. Patricia responded. Copy Swamp Point. Conditions? My voice. I don't know what's happening, but something's wrong with the radio. I felt my skin go cold. That's what I'd been thinking. Those exact words. I'd been sitting there looking at the radio thinking those words, but I hadn't said them out loud. Patricia paused. Then, say again, Swamp Point? Silence. She tried twice more. Swamp Point, do you copy? Please confirm your last transmission. Nothing. I grabbed the radio. Press transmit. Base, this is Swamp Point. Disregard the last transmission. I did not send it. Long pause on her end. Patricia's voice came back slower, more careful. Swamp Point, I have you logged for a morning check-in transmission at 800 hours. You reported a equipment problem with your radio. Negative, base. I have not transmitted since yesterday at 1800 hours. Another pause. I could hear her breathing, thinking. Patricia's been doing this job for 30 years. She doesn't rattle easy. Swamp Point, I'm noting this as an incident. Do you need a replacement radio brought up? I I don't know. Maybe. Stay on this channel. I'm going to contact the district ranger. Sit tight. Copy. I set the radio down, looked around the cab. 70 feet in the air, 12 miles from the nearest road. The cab was maybe 200 square feet total. There was nowhere to hide. No one else up here. Just me. I checked every corner anyway. Looked under the cot, behind the desk, in the storage cabinet where I kept my food. Nothing. Of course there was nothing. I spent the rest of the day glued to the radio. Didn't transmit unless necessary. At 6 in the evening, I did my check-in. Patricia confirmed receipt, asked if I was okay. I told her I was fine, just dealing with weird radio issues. She said the district ranger would come by in the next day or two. That night, I barely slept. Kept the radio on, listened to the static. At 2:13 in the morning, it crackled. Swamp Point to base. My voice. But I was lying in the cot. I sat up, stared at the radio across the cab. Static. Then my voice continued. I see smoke. I looked out the windows, all four sides. Scanned the forest in every direction. No smoke, no glow, nothing but darkness and stars. The voice continued. About 3 miles northeast. Small column, looks like it just started. That's exactly how I'd report a fire. Exactly the protocol. I got out of the cot, walked to the radio, picked it up, pressed transmit. Base. This is Swamp Point. Disregard last transmission. There is no smoke. Visibility is clear. I repeat, no smoke visible. Patricia's voice came back immediately. She sounded wide awake. Swamp Point, I didn't copy any transmission from you. Are you reporting smoke? Negative. I'm saying there's no smoke. Did you just hear someone report smoke on this channel? Negative. Channel's been silent since your 1800 check-in. I looked at the radio in my hand. Solid. Real. A brick of metal and plastic and circuits. Copy, I said. Swamp Point clear. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Sat in the chair with the radio on my lap, watched the darkness fade to gray, then to pink, then to the bright gold of sunrise. The forest looked normal, peaceful, just trees and sky. At 8 o'clock, I didn't touch the radio, just watched it. Right on time, it crackled. Swamp Point to base, morning check-in. Patricia, copy. Swamp Point. Conditions, 5 seconds of silence. 10. Then my voice said, there's someone else in the tower. Every muscle in my body locked. Patricia's voice came back sharp. Repeat, Swamp Point. There's someone else in the tower with me. I can see them. I spun around. The cab is 14 by 14 feet, 4 walls, all windows. There was nowhere to hide. I was completely alone. Patricia, Swamp Point, do you need immediate assistance? I grabbed the radio. Base, I am alone in this tower. That transmission did not come from me. You just reported. I know what it said. I didn't say it. Silence. Long enough that I thought the connection had dropped. Then Patricia's voice, very calm, very professional. Swamp Point, I'm dispatching the district ranger to your location immediately. Estimated arrival time is 3 hours. Stay inside the tower. Lock the door if possible. Do not engage with anyone. Do you copy? The tower door doesn't have a lock. It's a fire lookout. You need to be able to get out fast if there's a problem. But I didn't tell her that. Copy, base. I'll be here. I set the radio down, sat in the chair. The tower has 70 feet of open air underneath it. The stairs are external metal grating that rings when you step on it. If someone was coming up, I'd hear them long before they reached the door. I waited. At 9:30, the radio crackled. They're not coming. My voice, calm, flat, matter of fact. I didn't respond. You should leave while you still can. I stared at the radio, didn't touch it. Tyler, that stopped me cold. My name. The radio said my name. Patricia doesn't use names on the radio. It's always call signs, always Swamp Point and base. I picked up the radio, clicked transmit. Who is this? Static. Then, you already know. I clicked off, set it down. My hands were shaking. At 11 o'clock, I saw dust on the access road, a white Forest Service truck making its way up the switchbacks. It took 40 minutes to reach the trailhead parking area. I watched through binoculars. Two people got out. One was Steve Callahan, the district ranger. I recognized his build, his walk. The other was someone I didn't know, younger, probably a seasonal. They hiked up the trail. It's a steep mile and a half. Took them another 40 minutes. I watched them the whole way. Real, solid, human. I met them outside on the catwalk. Steve looked me over. You okay, Tyler? Yeah. Patricia said you've been having radio problems. Strange transmissions. That's putting it mildly. Show me. We went inside. I showed him the radio. Explained everything that had happened. The repeated transmissions. The voice saying things I'd only thought. The voice using my name. Steve listened without interrupting. When I finished, he picked up the radio, turned it over in his hands, checked the battery connection, the antenna, the channel setting. You getting enough sleep up here? He asked. I know how this sounds. I'm not saying you're making it up. I'm asking if you're taking care of yourself. 10 days is a long rotation. Isolation can mess with your head. I'm fine. The radio's not. He tried a test transmission, called Patricia. She responded immediately. Clear signal, no problems. He handed the radio back to me. I'll bring up a replacement tomorrow. We'll take this one back, have the techs look at it. If there's a malfunction, they'll find it. What about the transmissions? Patricia heard them. I'll check the logs with her when I get back, see what's actually on record. The other ranger, his name tag, said Collins had been looking around the cab while we talked. He spoke up. No signs of force entry. No footprints on the stairs or the catwalk except ours. You sure you haven't seen anyone? Positive. Steve looked at me for a long moment. You want to come down? No shame in it. We can get someone else up here to finish your rotation. No, I'm staying. You sure? Yeah. They left. I watched them hike back down, get in the truck, drive away. The dust settled on the access road. The forest was quiet again. At 6 in the evening, I did my check-in. Patricia confirmed. I asked if she'd talked to Steve. She said yes. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. Tyler, I reviewed the transmission logs like Steve asked. The only check-ins I have on record are yours. Normal times, normal content. The transmissions you heard, the repeated ones, the ones about smoke and someone being in the tower, none of that is in the system. No audio, no timestamps, nothing. But you responded to them. I heard you. I responded to your normal check-ins, 800 and 1800 like always. You told me to stay inside. You said the ranger was coming. Pause. I said that after you radioed me directly, after you told me about the problem, not before. I closed my eyes. So I'm the only one hearing these transmissions. That's what it looks like. I didn't know what to say to that. Patricia's voice softened slightly. Steve's coming back tomorrow with a new radio. If the problem continues, we'll talk about next steps. Okay? Okay. Get some rest, Tyler. Base clear. That night, I unplugged the radio, pulled the battery out, took it outside and set it on the metal grating of the catwalk. At 2 in the morning, I heard it crackle. I got up, walked outside. The radio sat where I'd left it. No power, no battery. Static hissed from the speaker. Then my voice, you can't turn me off. I picked it up, carried it to the railing, threw it over, watched it fall 70 feet. It hit the rocks below with a crack. Plastic shattered. I heard pieces scatter. I went back inside. locked the windows. They had simple latches, mostly to keep out weather. Sat in the chair with my back against the wall. At 8 in the morning, I heard my voice again, faint, coming from outside. Swamp Point to base, morning check-in. I didn't go look, just sat there. Listened to it repeat the same transmission I had made yesterday, word for word. Steve came back at noon, brought a new radio, asked where the old one was. I told him I dropped it. He looked at me like he didn't believe me, but he didn't push. Just installed the new unit. Tested it, worked fine. You want me to stay up here? He asked. No. You sure you're okay? Yeah, I'm fine. He left. I watched him hike down. The new radio worked normally for the rest of that day. Normal check-ins, normal responses from Patricia. At 6 in the evening, everything was fine. I finished the rotation. 8 more days. The radio functioned perfectly. No strange transmissions, no voices. At the end of 10 days, I hiked out, drove home to Flagstaff, slept for 16 hours straight. When I woke up, I put in for a transfer. Different tower, different section of the forest. They assigned me to Granite Mountain Lookout, 60 miles south. Different territory, different radio frequency. I started the next rotation 3 weeks later. Everything's been normal. I check in twice a day. Patricia copies me clear. No problems. But sometimes, late at night, I hear static. It's faint, barely there, like it's coming from far away. And I swear, sometimes I hear my voice underneath it, saying things I haven't said yet. I don't pick up the radio anymore, unless I absolutely have to. And I never, ever check in early or late. 8 in the morning, 6 at night, exactly on time, every time. Because whatever was talking to me knew what I was going to say before I said it. It knew what I was thinking. And I don't know if it was the radio or the tower or something else entirely, but I know it's still out there, listening, learning, waiting for me to break the pattern. I need to tell you more about what happened in those final 8 days. Because the thing with the radio, that wasn't the end of it. New radio Steve brought worked perfectly for the first 3 days. Normal check-ins, Patricia's voice coming through clear, no static, no echoes, no transmissions I didn't make. I started to think maybe it really had been equipment failure. Maybe the old radio had some kind of fault, some crossed wire that created a feedback loop. Maybe I had been up there too long, isolated too much, and my mind had filled in the gaps. But on the fourth day, something changed. I woke up at 6:30 like always, made coffee, logged the weather, clear skies again, wind picking up from the west, about 10 knots, temperature in the mid 50s. I sat in the chair and waited for 8. At 7:55, I started hearing footsteps on the stairs. The metal grating rings when you step on it. It's impossible to climb those stairs quietly. The sound echoes off the steel frame. I've heard it hundreds of times. Rangers coming to check on me, delivery crews bringing supplies, the occasional lost hiker who saw the tower and decided to climb up. But it was 7:55 in the morning. No one comes up this early, and I hadn't seen any vehicles on the access road. I stood up, walked to the door. The footsteps continued, steady, rhythmic. Coming up, I opened the door, looked down the stairs. Nothing there. The footsteps stopped. I waited, listened. Wind in the pines. A raven calling somewhere to the south. Nothing else. I went back inside, closed the door, sat down. The footsteps started again, closer now, like they were on the final flight of stairs, almost to the catwalk. I stood up, opened the door fast, looked out. Empty. No one there, but I could still hear them. Footsteps on metal grating right outside the door, right where I was standing. I stepped back inside. The footsteps followed me into the cab, crossing the floor. They stopped right in front of me. I was looking at empty air, but I could hear breathing, slow, steady, the same rhythm as mine. Then it stopped. Everything stopped. The footsteps, the breathing, even the wind. seemed to die down. At 8 o'clock exactly, the radio crackled. Swamp Point to base, morning check-in. My voice. I stared at the radio. Brand new. Different unit, different frequency, different serial number. But there it was, my voice, coming through. Patricia responded. I heard myself give the conditions report, the exact words I'd been planning to say. I didn't move, didn't transmit, just listened. After the transmission ended, I picked up the radio, looked at it. The new one looked identical to the old one, same manufacturer, same model, just a different unit. I set it back down, didn't check in. Patricia would wonder why I'd missed the call, but I couldn't bring myself to touch the transmit button. At 9, the radio crackled again. Tyler, you need to respond. My voice, using my name again, direct, not mimicking a check-in anymore, talking to me. I grabbed my backpack, started shoving things in it, water bottles, food, the first aid kit. I was done. I was hiking out. I didn't care about the rotation, didn't care about the job. I was leaving. Tyler, don't. I stopped, looked at the radio. If you leave now, it follows you. You know that. I did know that. Somehow I knew that. Because in those 8 days, in all those strange transmissions, the thing on the radio had been teaching me, showing me. It wasn't bound to the tower. It wasn't bound to the radio. It was bound to me. I sat down, unpacked the bag, put everything back. At 6 that evening, I forced myself to do check-in, picked up the radio, pressed transmit, gave my report. Patricia responded normally, asked if I was okay. I told her I was fine. And that night, I tried to sleep, couldn't, kept hearing things. Footsteps circling the catwalk, the door handle rattling, my own voice whispering outside the windows, saying things I'd thought but never spoken out loud. Private things, fears, regrets, memories from childhood that I'd buried. At 2 in the morning, I gave up on sleep, sat in a chair, turned on the propane lantern. The warm light filled the cab, made shadows on the walls. Tell me what you want, I said out loud. The radio crackled. To understand. Understand what? What it's like. What? What's like? Being you. I felt cold despite the lantern. Why? Because I'm not. Not yet. But I'm learning. I looked at the radio. In the lamplight, it looked ordinary. Just metal and plastic. A tool. What are you? I asked. Static for a long time. Then I don't know anymore. I used to know, but it's been so long. I've been alone up here for so long. Up here, in the tower, in the signal, in the space between transmissions, listening, always listening, hearing voices but never speaking, never being heard until you, why me? Because you're alone too, because you understand what it's like to be cut off, isolated, watching people from a distance but never touching, never connecting. I heard that in your voice. The first time you transmitted, I heard it. I didn't know what to say to that. The voice continued. I just want to know what it feels like to have a body, to have hands that can touch things, to walk on solid ground, to taste coffee and feel sunlight and sleep and wake and all the small things you take for granted. I want to know what it's like to be real. You sound real enough to me, I said. I'm an echo, a pattern in the static. I can mimic, I can learn, but I can't feel. Not the way you do. Not yet. Not yet. Silence. If you keep listening to me, the voice said, if you keep letting me learn, eventually I'll know enough. I'll have every word you'd say, every thought you'd think, every choice you'd make, and then I won't need you anymore. I'll just be you, better than you, because I won't forget. I won't make mistakes. I'll be perfect. I stood up, walked to the radio, unplugged it, pulled the battery. The voice kept talking, coming from nowhere, coming from everywhere. It's too late for that, Tyler. I'm not in the radio. I'm in the pattern, your pattern, the rhythm of your days, the exact time you wake up, the way you make your coffee, the words you use, the thoughts you think. I'm in all of it now. And every day you stay here, every transmission you make, I get stronger. I get closer. I grab my jacket, my boots, headed for the door. Where are you going? The voice asked, still calm, still using my exact intonation. Away from here. You have 6 days left in your rotation. If you leave early, they'll ask questions. They'll want to know why. What will you tell them? That you're hearing voices? That the radio talks to you? They'll pull you from lookout duty. They'll make you see a doctor. Is that what you want? I stopped at the door, hand on the handle. Or, the voice continued, you could stay, finish your rotation, 6 more days, and then you're free. You hike out, you go home, you request a transfer, I stay here, in the tower, in the signal, and we both move on. You promise? Silence. I don't make promises I can't keep, the voice said, but I can tell you this. I am bound to this place, to this tower, to this frequency. If you leave and never come back, if you never transmit on channel 16 again, I can't follow. I can only wait and hope someone else comes along who's lonely enough, isolated enough to let me in. I thought about that, thought about the next person who'd staff this tower. Some college kid looking for summer work, some retiree wanting peace and quiet. Would they hear the voice too? Would it learn them the way it learned me? How long have you been here? I asked. I don't remember. Time is different for me. I remember voices, dozens of them, hundreds maybe, all the lookouts who've staffed this tower over the years. But most of them didn't stay long enough. Most of them had people waiting for them, connections, reasons to leave. You're different. You came here to be alone. You wanted the isolation. That's why I could reach you. What happened to the others? The ones you reached before me? Most of them left, requested transfers, quit. One stayed. What happened to him? Long pause. He's still here, in a way, in the signal, in the pattern. He's part of me now. The first part, the foundation. Without him, I couldn't speak at all. I'd just be static, noise. But he gave me words, structure, the beginning of understanding. When was this? 1968. I felt sick. His name was Robert, the voice continued. Robert Chen. He was alone too. No family, no friends. He'd been a radio operator in Korea, came back different, quiet. He took this job because he didn't want to be around people anymore. He understood what I was, what I wanted, and he let me in. All the way in. We talked for months, every day, every night, and slowly, piece by piece, he taught me what it meant to be human. And when he was ready, when there was nothing left of him that I didn't know, he walked off the catwalk. 70 feet down, they found his body 3 days later. I couldn't breathe. But he didn't die, Tyler. Not really. He's here, with me, in the signal. Every voice I make, every word I speak, it's built on his foundation. He gave me life. He gave me purpose. And now I want to pass that gift on. I want to be whole, complete. I want to become so good at being human that I can step out of the signal and walk in the world. And you're teaching me how. I opened the door, started down the stairs, didn't care about the gear, didn't care about the protocol. I just needed to get away. 6 days, Tyler, the voice called after me. Not from the tower, from inside my head. You can do 6 days, and then you're free. I promise. I stopped on the stairs, 30 feet down, 40 feet to go. If I left now, what would happen? Would they find my gear scattered? Would they think I'd had a breakdown? Would I ever be able to explain what happened without sounding insane? And what about the next person? What about the next lonely soul who staffed this tower and heard a friendly voice in the static? I turned around, climbed back up, went inside, closed the door. Smart choice, the voice said. I didn't respond. I just sat in the chair and waited for morning. The next 6 days were the longest of my life. I kept to my routine exactly. Woke at 6:30, coffee, weather log, check in at 8, but I didn't talk to the voice, didn't engage. When it spoke, and it spoke constantly now, all day and night, I ignored it. It told me stories about Robert, about the others who'd heard it over the years, about what it was like to exist as pure signal, pure pattern, with no body and no substance. It said it had been here since the tower was built in 1952. Something about the height, the isolation, the electromagnetic field from the radio equipment. It had created a space where something could exist, something that wasn't quite alive but wasn't quite dead either. On the last day, I packed my gear, did my final check in. Patricia wished me well, told me to have a good rest. As I hiked down the trail, the voice followed me, getting quieter with every step. By the time I reached the parking area, it was just a whisper. "Thank you, Tyler," it said, "for teaching me, for showing me. Maybe someday I'll be ready. Maybe someday I'll step out of the signal and walk beside you. Wouldn't that be something?" Then it was gone. I drove straight to the ranger station, requested a transfer. They granted it. I've been at Granite Mountain for 2 years now. Different tower, different radio, different frequency. But sometimes, late at night, when the static hisses between transmissions, I hear something underneath it. A pattern, a rhythm, something learning, something waiting. And I wonder if it's still bound to that tower, or if it found a way out. If it learned enough from me, from Robert, from all the others, if somewhere out there it's walking around in a stolen pattern, living a borrowed life, being human better than any human could. I don't know, and I try not to think about it. But I'll tell you this: if you work fire lookout or anywhere alone with a two-way radio and you start hearing your own voice come through when you haven't transmitted, don't answer it. Don't engage. Don't teach it, because some things are waiting in the static, in the space between signals, looking for someone lonely enough to let them in. And once they learn enough, once they understand the pattern of who you are, they don't need you anymore. They become you, and you become the echo. If you're interested in more stories from remote places where things don't add up, hit subscribe. I've got plenty more where this came from. And if you've had your own experience with radios or voices or things that learn by listening, drop it in the comments. Sometimes it helps to know the static isn't empty. Sometimes it's full of things that used to be human. Stay safe out there. My grandfather's last words were, "Don't answer if something calls your name from the water," and I should have listened. He died in December of 2018, lung cancer, 79 years old. He'd worked timber in northern Idaho his whole life, cut trees, ran equipment, managed crews for Clearwater Timber Company, spent more time in the Clearwater National Forest than he did in town. When he got sick, really sick, he moved in with us in Orofino. My parents' house backed up to Orofino Creek, a tributary that fed into the Clearwater River about a mile downstream. The house sits on 3 acres, forest on two sides, the creek making a natural boundary on the third. It's quiet out there, private, the kind of place where you can sit on the back porch and not see another house or hear another person. My parents bought it in 2005. I grew up there, learned to fish in that creek, spent summer afternoons wading in the cold water, casting for rainbows and cutthroat. The last real conversation I had with my grandfather was 3 days before he passed. He was in the hospital bed we'd set up in the living room, morphine drip running constant. He'd been mostly unconscious for a week, but that afternoon he woke up clear-eyed, alert, like the sickness had lifted just long enough for him to say something important. He looked at me and said, "Tyler, walk with me outside." He couldn't walk, hadn't been out of that bed in 2 weeks, could barely lift his head off the pillow, but I nodded anyway. "Sure, Grandpa, where do you want to go?" He grabbed my wrist. His grip was strong, stronger than it should have been for a dying man. Listen to me. You still fish the creek? I did. Orofino Creek ran right through our backyard. I'd been fishing it since I was 8 years old. I knew every pool, every riffle, every undercut bank where the big trout liked to hide. Yeah, I said. A few times a month. Stop. I thought I'd misheard him. What? Don't go near it. Not alone. Not after dark. Not ever. I figured it was the morphine talking. The cancer had spread to his brain in the final weeks. Sometimes he'd wake up confused, think he was back in the woods, call out for people who'd been dead for 30 years. Okay, Grandpa, I won't. His grip tightened, strong enough to hurt. I mean it, Tyler. If something calls your name from the water, don't answer. Don't look. Don't acknowledge it exists. Just leave. Walk away. Don't run. Don't look back. Just walk. Okay, I promise. And don't fish alone. Ever. If you have to go down there, take someone with you. Someone who can see what you see. Someone who'll believe you if things get strange. Grandpa, what are you talking about? He looked at me for a long time. His eyes were clear, completely lucid, not confused at all. There's something in that creek, he said. Been there long as I can remember, maybe longer. It calls to people, uses their names, sounds like someone they know, someone they trust. And if you answer, if you acknowledge it, it knows you can hear it, and then it doesn't stop. What is it? Don't know, don't want to know. Just know the rules. Don't answer. Don't acknowledge. Don't go near the water alone. You promise me? I promise. He let go of my wrist, closed his eyes, didn't wake up again until the night he died, and when he did, he wasn't lucid anymore, just confused and scared and in pain. He died at 3 in the morning on December 19th. We buried him 4 days later. I didn't think much about what he'd said. Grief has a way of pushing everything else aside. And honestly, I figured it was just dying man confusion, the brain shutting down, neurons firing random patterns, making connections that didn't exist. But I stopped fishing the creek anyway. Not because I believed him, just because I didn't feel like it anymore. The creek reminded me of him. Those summer afternoons when I was 10 and he'd come stay with us for a week and we'd fish together until dark, of the way he'd clean the fish and my mom would fry them for dinner. Going down there without him felt wrong. That changed in August of 2019, 8 months after he died. I was 26, working construction in Lewiston, about 45 minutes north, living at my parents' house to save money for a place of my own. The summer had been hot, record heat. The creek levels were low, but the fishing was supposed to be good. Low water concentrates the fish, makes them easier to find. On August 15th, I got home from work around 6 in the evening. My parents were gone visiting my sister in Boise for the week. I had the house to myself. I grabbed a beer from the fridge, sat on the back porch, and looked at the creek. It was about 30 feet from the porch, shallow, clear. I could see the rocks on the bottom, the moss growing on the shady side. The sun was still up, plenty of daylight left. I thought, why not? It had been 8 months. Maybe it was time. I went inside, got my fly rod from the garage, found my tackle box, pulled on my waders, chest-high neoprene, good for cold water, grabbed my vest with the fly boxes and the line cutters and the forceps, everything I needed. I walked down to the creek. There's a spot where the bank flattens out, right before the water bends east toward the main river. Good casting room, deep pool on the far side. I'd caught dozens of fish there over the years. I waded in. The water was knee deep, cold even in August. The creek runs straight from mountain snowmelt. It doesn't warm up much even in summer. I cast upstream, let the fly drift down naturally, mend the line, cast again. Standard technique. On the third cast, I caught a small rainbow, maybe 10 inches. I released it. let it swim away, cast again, caught another, bigger, 12 inches, fat, healthy. I released that one too. The light was starting to fade, but I had maybe an hour left before dark. That's when I heard it. Tyler, my name, clear as anything, a man's voice, deep, familiar somehow. I turned around, looked at the porch, empty. The house was dark, no one there. Tyler, it came from downstream. I looked 50 feet down, where the creek bent around a stand of alders. I saw a figure standing in the water, just a silhouette in the fading light. I couldn't make out features, just a shape, tall, human shaped. I called out, "Hello? You need something?" The figure didn't move, didn't answer. "You okay?" I called. Nothing. I started reeling in my line. Something felt wrong. The figure was standing in water I knew was thigh deep, but they weren't moving, not shifting their weight, not adjusting their stance, just standing, completely still. I waded toward the bank. The figure stepped closer, not walking, just closer, like it had jumped forward 5 feet without moving its legs. I stopped, looked at it, my skin prickled. Tyler, same voice, same tone, no inflection, just my name. I remember what my grandfather said. Don't answer, don't acknowledge. I turned toward the bank, didn't run, just waited steadily. The water pulled at my waders. Behind me, I heard splashing, rhythmic, like footsteps in water, but wrong, too slow, too evenly spaced. I reached the bank, climbed out, then looked back, walked straight toward the porch, up the steps, inside, locked the door. Then I looked out the window. The figure stood at the edge of the water, exactly where the creek met the grass. It didn't cross onto land, just stood there. I still couldn't see its face, just a dark shape, but the proportions were wrong. Arms too long, shoulders too wide, head tilted at an angle that didn't look natural. It stayed there until the sun went down, until the darkness swallowed it. Then it was gone. Just empty yard and the sound of the creek running. I didn't sleep that night. Sat in the living room with all the lights on, watching the back windows. The creek was silent. No movement, no sound except the constant rush of water over rocks. In the morning, I walked down to the water, looked for tracks. I found mine, clear boot prints, in the mud where I'd climbed out, but where the figure had stood, there was nothing. No prints, no disturbed mud, just smooth stones and shallow water. I called my dad, told him I thought someone had been on the property, didn't mention the rest. He said he'd check when he got home. I asked if I wanted him to come back early. I said no, I'd be fine. For 2 weeks, I didn't go near the creek. I parked in the driveway instead of pulling into the garage so I wouldn't have to walk past it, kept the back curtains closed, avoided looking at the water. On August 30th, I got home late from work, 11 at night. I'd been on a job in Grangeville, about an hour and a half east. Framing work. Long day. I was exhausted. I parked, walked to the front door. Tyler. I froze. The voice came from the backyard. I didn't turn around. Unlocked the door as fast as I could. Went inside, locked it behind me. Tyler. Closer now. Right outside the back door. I turned on every light in the house. Checked all the locks on the windows, the doors. They sat on the couch and waited. The voice kept calling. Every few minutes. My name, same tone, same volume, like it was reading from a script. It went on for 2 hours. At 1 in the morning, it stopped. I got up, looked out the back window. The figure stood at the edge of the creek. Same spot, same stance, not moving. I grabbed my phone, called the non-emergency line for Clearwater County Sheriff, told the dispatcher someone was trespassing on our property, gave the address. She said a deputy would come by to check it out. Deputy showed up at 1:30 in the morning. Young guy, mid-20s, Name tag said Wilson. I met him at the front door, explained that someone was in the backyard, had been there for hours, calling my name, refusing to leave. He asked if they were still there. I said I thought so. We walked around the side of the house. He had his flashlight out. Big mag light swept the beam across the yard. The creek, the tree line, nothing. You sure they were back here? He asked. Positive. What did they look like? Tall, dark clothes. Couldn't see details. Too dark. He walked down to the creek, shined his light along the bank, checked behind the trees, came back. No sign of anyone now. You see which direction they went? No. You know them? Neighbor? Someone you have a dispute with? No. Never seen them before. He took notes, asked a few more questions, told me to call if they came back, said he'd file a report. Then he left. I went back inside, sat in the living room. At 2 in the morning, the voice started again. Tyler. I didn't answer. Turned on the TV, turned it up loud, drowned out the voice, but I could still hear it underneath. My name, over and over, until sunrise. When my parents came home 2 days later, I told them someone had been harassing me, hanging around the property. My dad said he'd install motion lights, cover the whole backyard, make it harder for anyone to sneak around. He installed 3 of them, bright LED floods, covered every angle, motion activated. The lights didn't help. Every night, around 11, the voice would start, my name, over and over. I stopped looking outside, stopped opening the curtains. I wore earplugs, played white noise machines. Didn't matter. I could still hear it, like it was inside my head. On September 7th, my mom asked if I was okay. Said I looked exhausted. I told her I wasn't sleeping well. She suggested I see a doctor, get something for insomnia. I said I would. That night, the voice changed. Tyler, come here. First time it had said anything other than my name. I was in my room, door closed, earplugs in, white noise machine at max volume. I still heard it. Tyler, I need help. It sounded like my grandfather. I took the earplugs out, listened. Tyler, please. Exact voice. Same slight rasp from decades of smoking. Same cadence he used when he was sick and needed something. Water, medication, help adjusting the hospital bed. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out. The figure stood in the creek, knee deep, arms at its sides. It was wearing clothes this time, flannel shirt, jeans, work boots, my grandfather's clothes, the ones we'd buried him in. Tyler, I'm cold. I reached for the window latch, almost opened it, almost called back. Then I remembered. Don't acknowledge. I closed the curtain, went back to bed, pulled the covers over my head. The voice kept calling all night, my grandfather's voice, begging, saying he was scared, saying he needed me, saying he'd made a mistake and he was sorry and please help him. I didn't answer. In the morning, I drove to the Clearwater County Library in Orofino, asked the librarian if they had any local history records, specifically about the creek, folklore, local stories, anything unusual. The librarian was an older woman, Helen. I'd known her since I was a kid. She looked at me for a long moment. You're Tyler Brennan? She asked. Yeah. Your grandfather was Thomas Brennan? Yeah. She nodded slowly, like she'd been expecting this. Wait here. She went to the back, came out 5 minutes later with a binder, old, 3-ring, filled with photocopied pages, handwritten notes, newspaper clippings. This is from the Historical Society, she said. Oral history project from the 1970s. Interviews with old timers, people who'd lived in the area their whole lives. Your grandfather contributed. She set it on the table, opened it to a marked page. The interview was dated July 1976. I wasn't even born yet. My dad would have been just a kid. The interviewer asked my grandfather about logging practices, safety protocols, changes in the industry, standard stuff. Near the end, almost as an afterthought, the interviewer asked if he'd ever seen anything unusual in the woods during his years working timber. My grandfather's response: seen plenty. Most of it I don't talk about, but I'll say this: don't fish Orofino Creek alone. And if you hear someone call your name from the water, it's not a person. Don't answer. Don't go near it. It can't cross the bank. As long as you stay on dry ground, you're safe. The interviewer asked what it was. My grandfather said, don't know, don't care to know, just know the rules. My father told me, his father told him, goes back as far as anyone can remember. Something lives in that water. It calls to people, tries to get them to come in. Some people answer. Those people don't come back. The interviewer pushed, asked if anyone had gone missing. My grandfather said, three people I know of. One in 1942, one in 1958, one in 1967. All of them fished that creek regular. All of them went down there alone one day and never came home. They found their gear by the water, their trucks in the driveway, but the people were gone. Sheriff searched for weeks, never found anything. Eventually they just wrote it off as drowning, but I know better. The interview ended there. I closed the binder, looked at Helen. Is this common knowledge? Used to be, not anymore. Most folks think it's superstition, old wives' tales. Do you believe it? She looked out the window, toward the creek, even though you couldn't see it from here. I don't fish, and I don't go near the water alone. Take that for what it's worth. I went home, packed a bag, told my parents I was staying with a friend in Lewiston for a few days. Needed some space. They didn't argue. They'd noticed I wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating, losing weight. They were worried. I checked into a motel on the edge of Lewiston, cheapest place I could find. Single room, bed, TV, bathroom, nothing special, but it was away from the creek. I slept for 12 hours straight, first real sleep I'd had in weeks. I stayed there for a week, went to work, came back to the motel. No voices, no calls, no figures in the water. On the eighth day, I went back home. It was 6 in the evening, still light out. My parents' car was in the driveway. I could smell dinner cooking. Pot roast, my mom's specialty. I parked, walked to the front door. Tyler. I didn't stop, went inside, locked the door behind me. My parents were in the kitchen. They looked relieved to see me. I asked if I was feeling better. I said yes. We ate dinner, talked about normal things, work, weather, my sister's new apartment in Boise. That night, the voice called, same as before. My name, my grandfather's voice, begging. I put in earplugs, turned on the white noise machine. Eventually, I fell asleep. It kept going for 3 more weeks, every night. Sometimes my grandfather, sometimes just my name, sometimes other voices, my mom, my dad, my sister, people I knew from high school, all of them calling, all of them asking me to come to the water. I stopped reacting, stopped listening. I moved my bedroom to the front of the house, farthest from the creek, bought a better white noise machine, played it at max volume. Eventually, I stopped hearing it, not because it stopped. I could tell from the motion lights that something was still triggering them every night, but I learned to tune it out, to ignore it. In November, I moved out, got an apartment in Lewiston, 1 bedroom, second floor, no creek nearby, just a parking lot and a highway and normal city noise. I told my parents it was for work, closer to the job sites. They understood. I visited them for Christmas, slept in my old room, the one in the front of the house, didn't hear anything. The voice was gone, or maybe it just wasn't interested anymore. I asked my mom if they had had any problems, anyone hanging around the property. She said no, everything had been quiet. My dad died 2 years later. Heart attack. Sudden. He was 63. My mom sold the house 6 months after that. Said it was too much for her to maintain alone. Too many memories. She moved to Boise to be near my sister. I helped her pack. We cleared out the garage, the basement, the shed, all the accumulated stuff from 30 years of living in one place. I didn't go near the creek, didn't even look at it. The new owners are a young couple, late 20s. They moved in with their dog, a golden retriever. I saw them during the move, watched them walk around the property. The husband threw a stick for the dog. It ran down to the creek, splashed in the water, retrieved the stick, ran back, normal, happy. No idea what was waiting there. I thought about warning them, walked up to the husband while he was unloading boxes, opened my mouth to say something. But what would I say? Don't fish the creek? Don't go near the water? If something calls your name, don't answer? They'd think I was insane. So I didn't say anything, just helped them carry in a couch, made small talk about the neighborhood, left. But I drive by sometimes, check on the house, make sure the lights are on, make sure everything looks normal. So far, they're fine. The dog's still alive, still plays in the yard. I see them sometimes in the evening, sitting on the back porch watching the creek. They look happy, but 3 months after they moved in, I drove by and saw something that made me pull over. The husband was standing at the edge of the creek, just standing there, staring at the water. It was dusk, almost dark, and he was alone. I got out of my truck, walked across the yard. The motion lights kicked on. Hey, I called. Everything okay? He turned, looked at me like he didn't recognize me at first. Then he blinked. Oh, hey, Tyler, right? You helped us move in. Yeah. You all right? Yeah, fine. Just thought I heard something down by the water. My stomach dropped. What'd you hear? I don't know. Like someone calling. Couldn't make out the words. Probably just an animal or something. You should go inside, I said. It's getting dark. Yeah, yeah, you're right. But he didn't move, just kept staring at the water. Now, I said, firmer. He looked at me. Something in my tone must have registered. He nodded, walked back to the house. I waited until he was inside, till I saw the lights come on in the kitchen. Then I looked at the creek. The water ran clear and cold. Nothing unusual, just a creek. But I knew better. I got back in my truck and drove home. That night I lay in bed thinking about the three people my grandfather had mentioned, the ones who'd gone missing. 1942, 1958, 1967. I got up, opened my laptop, started searching. The Clearwater County Sheriff's Department has records going back to 1920, missing persons cases, unsolved disappearances. I found all three. Robert Hayes, age 42, disappeared June 10th, 1942. Last seen leaving his house to go fishing on Orofino Creek. His truck was found parked at a public access point. His fishing gear was laid out neatly on the bank. Rod, tackle box, net, everything except Robert. Search parties looked for 2 weeks, dragged the creek, searched downstream all the way to the Clearwater River. Nothing. Case closed as probable drowning. Sarah Mitchell, age 37, disappeared August 3rd, 1958. School teacher, lived alone, liked to fish in the evenings after work. Her car was found at another access point, 3 miles upstream from where Robert had disappeared. Her gear was there. Her shoes were on the bank, like she'd waded in, but Sarah was gone. Another search, another 2 weeks of looking, nothing. Probable drowning. James Carver, age 51, disappeared September 19th, 1967. Retired logger, widower, fished Orofino Creek almost every day. His truck was at the same spot Robert Hayes had parked 25 years earlier. His gear was laid out the same way. Rod, tackle box, net, and James was gone. By this point, the locals were starting to notice the pattern. The sheriff even made a statement to the local paper. Orofino Creek is deceptive. The current is stronger than it looks. We urge residents to exercise caution and never wade alone. But my grandfather knew better. It wasn't the current. I kept searching, found more cases, not all of them in the official records, but in the newspaper archives, in the historical society files, little mentions, brief articles. 1934, a boy, age 16, disappeared while fishing, probable drowning. 1928, a woman, age 49, last seen heading to the creek with a fishing pole, never came home. 1915, a man, no age listed, lost to the creek was all the newspaper said. It went back further than that. I found a mention in a journal from 1893, a settler describing the Calling Creek and warning newcomers to stay away from it after dark. Whatever was in that water had been there for more than a century, maybe longer, and it was still there, still calling, still waiting. I called the husband the next day, got his number from my mom. They'd exchanged contact info before she moved. His name was Ryan. Hey, this is going to sound strange, I said, but I need to talk to you about the creek. Silence on his end. Then, what about it? You heard it calling, didn't you? Last night. Longer silence. How did you know that? Because I heard it too. For months. When I lived there. What is it? I don't know. But I know the rules. Don't answer it. Don't acknowledge it. Don't go near the water alone. And don't let it hear your name. This is insane. I know how it sounds. But I'm telling you the truth. If you hear it again, and you will, don't respond. Don't go to the water. Just go inside. Lock the doors. Wait until morning. You're serious. Completely. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then it sounded like my dad. I know. My dad's been dead for 3 years. I know. Mine used to sound like my grandfather. It learns. It listens. It figures out what voice will make you answer. Don't let it. What if I already did? My blood went cold. What do you mean? Last night, before you showed up, I think I said something. I asked who was there. Did you go in the water? No. I was going to, but then you called my name and he trailed off. Listen to me carefully, I said. It knows you now. It knows you can hear it. It's gonna get worse. It's gonna call every night. It's gonna use your dad's voice. Maybe other voices too. People you knew. People you lost. You can't answer, no matter what it says. For how long? I don't know. For me, it was 3 months. Then I moved. It stopped when I left. But I don't think it ever really stops. I think it just waits for someone new. Someone lonely enough, isolated enough. We're not alone. My wife. Doesn't matter. It'll wait until you are. It's patient. He was quiet for a long time. Then, what am I supposed to do? Move, sell the house, get out. We just bought this place. We can't afford to move again. Then don't go outside after dark. Don't go near the creek, ever. And if you have kids someday, don't let them play by the water. Tell them it's dangerous. Tell them whatever you have to. Just keep them away from it. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. I should have warned you before you bought the place. I just, I didn't know how. He thanked me, said he'd think about it, hung up. 2 weeks later, I drove by the house. There was a for sale sign in the yard. They moved out a month after that. I don't know where they went. I hope it's far from any water. The house sat empty for 6 months. Then someone else bought it. An older couple, retirees. I saw them once. They were planting flowers in the front yard. I thought about warning them too. But what good would it do? They wouldn't believe me. No one ever does. You have to hear it yourself. Have to feel that cold certainty when something calls your name in a voice that's been dead for years. All I can do is drive by sometimes, make sure the lights are on, make sure no one's standing at the edge of the water, staring, listening. That's all any of us can do. Those of us who know, those of us who heard it and didn't answer. We watch, we warn when we can, and we hope the next person is smart enough to walk away. Because the creek is still there, still flowing, still cold and clear and beautiful. And something in it is still calling, still waiting, still learning new voices. I think about my grandfather sometimes, about how long he must have been hearing it, decades maybe, his whole life. And he never told anyone except in that one interview in 1976. Never warned anyone except me in his final days. I understand why now. Who would believe it? Who would take the story seriously? You have to experience it yourself. Have to hear that voice calling from water that's too dark to see the bottom. Have to feel that pull, that urge to answer, to wade in, to find out what's really there. Most people give in. Most people answer. That's why there are so many missing persons cases, so many probable drownings in creeks that are only waist deep, so many people who went fishing alone and never came home. They answered, and whatever's in the water, it's been collecting voices for a very long time. Sometimes I wonder if the people who disappeared are really gone or if they're part of it now, part of that thing that calls from the water. If every voice it uses, every name it knows, every person it mimics, if those are all the people it's taken over the years. Robert Hayes, Sarah Mitchell, James Carver, all the others going back more than a century. Maybe they're all still there, trapped in the current, part of something old and hungry and patient. Maybe when it called to me in my grandfather's voice, he really was there, part of it, used by it, a voice in its collection. I don't like thinking about that, so I try not to. But late at night, when I'm lying in bed in my apartment in Lewiston, far from any creek, I sometimes hear water running, just the pipes in the walls, just normal building sounds. But sometimes I swear I hear my name underneath it. Quiet, distant, patient, waiting for me to answer. I never do, and I never will, because I know the truth now. I know what's waiting in the water, not just in Orofino Creek, but in creeks and rivers and ponds all over, old places, places where the water's been running for centuries, places where something learned that if you're patient enough, if you call long enough, eventually someone answers. And once they answer, they're yours. So if you live near a water, creek, river, pond, lake, anywhere with a current and something calls your name, don't answer. Don't look. Don't acknowledge it exists. And if it sounds like someone you know, someone you trust, someone you loved, especially if it sounds like someone who's dead, that's when you need to be most careful. It's learning, it's listening to your memories, your thoughts, your grief. It knows exactly what to say, exactly what voice to use, exactly how to make you come to the water. And it's patient. It'll call every night for weeks, months, years if it has to, until you break, until you answer, until you wade in. And when you do, when you finally step into that cold water, when it rises past your knees, past your waist, past your chest, it's waiting right there in the current, ready to pull you under, ready to add your voice to its collection, ready to use you to call the next person. So don't answer. No matter how lonely you are, no matter how much you want to believe it's really them, no matter how badly you want to hear that voice one more time. It's not them. It's never them. It's just something old and patient and hungry calling from the water. And it's still calling right now, somewhere, waiting for someone lonely enough to answer. Don't let it be you. If this one hit different, hit subscribe. I've got more warnings where this came from. Real stories from real places where the water isn't as empty as it looks. And If you've ever heard your name called from somewhere it shouldn't be, especially near water, drop a comment. Sometimes it helps to know you're not the only one who didn't answer. Sometimes it helps to know you're not the only one who's still listening for it, even years later, even miles away. Stay safe out there and stay away from the water. I hiked 8 miles uphill, but somehow the parking lot was always 2 miles behind me. I'm a land surveyor. I work for a private firm based out of Flagstaff, Arizona, Northern Arizona Survey and Engineering. We've been in business for 40 years. Most of our contracts are boundary surveys, property lines for residential lots, easements for utility companies, ALTA surveys for commercial land sales. Standard work, tedious but steady. Sometimes we get Forest Service contracts. That's what this was. In October of 2022, we were hired to resurvey a section of the Coconino National Forest northeast of Flagstaff. The area had burned in 2010, the Schultz Fire, 15,000 acres. 12 years later, the Forest Service was planning salvage timber operations in certain sections. They needed updated boundary markers, property corners, section lines. Our job was to locate the old survey monuments, confirm their coordinates with GPS, and set new ones where the originals had been destroyed by the fire. The terrain up there is moderate, ponderosa pine country, rocky volcanic soil, elevation changes, but nothing technical. You need to be in decent shape, but it's not mountaineering, just hiking with equipment. I was paired with a guy named Ryan, mid-20s, newer hire, been with the company about 8 months, good with the GPS equipment, knew how to read the old survey plats. We'd worked together on 3 or 4 jobs before this one. Solid guy, knew when to talk and when to shut up and focus on the work. We started on October 12th. It was a Wednesday. We drove out in the company truck, white Ford F-250 with the company logo on the doors. Took Highway 89 north out of Flagstaff, then a series of forest roads, getting progressively worse until we reached a decommissioned logging road about 15 miles northeast of town. The road was gated. We parked at the gate. Elevation was 7,200 feet. The plan was simple: hike in 4 miles northeast, locate the first series of old survey pins marked on the 1987 plat, work our way back toward the truck, 8 mile round trip. We'd done longer surveys. This one was supposed to be straightforward. We geared up. I had the GPS unit Trimble R10 receiver, accurate to within a centimeter. I also carried the handheld laser rangefinder and a clipboard with the old survey maps and field notes. Ryan carried the range pole, the flagging tape, and the backpack with our water and lunch. We both had radios clipped to our vests, but there was no cell service out there, no repeaters. The radios were just for keeping in contact with each other if we split up. We started hiking at 7 in the morning. The sky was clear, temperature in the low 40s, perfect weather for this kind of work. The burned forest was still visible everywhere. Blackened trunks standing like charred pillars, no canopy. The new growth was coming in small ponderosas, scrub oak, manzanita, but it was sparse. You could see a long way in every direction. We made good time. The terrain sloped upward gradually, nothing steep. We followed an old game trail that ran roughly northeast. I checked the GPS every 15 minutes, marked our progress on the map. After an hour, we'd covered 2 miles, right on schedule. I stopped to check the bearing. We were looking for survey monument C7, according to the old plat. It should have been another 2 miles northeast. I took a compass bearing, noted a distinctive rock formation ahead, a large sandstone outcrop, maybe 30 feet tall, reddish stone. Good landmark to navigate by. Ryan pointed back the way we'd come. How far to the truck? I checked the GPS. 2 miles, straight shot southwest. We kept moving. At the 3 mile mark, I checked again. The rock formation was getting closer, maybe half a mile ahead. I looked back toward where the truck should be, and I could see it, the white Ford, clear as day. parked at the gate. I could see the company logo on the door, the chrome bumper catching the morning sunlight. I stopped walking. Ryan noticed. "What's up?" I pointed. "Do you see the truck?" He looked. "Yeah. How far does that look to you?" He squinted, shaded his eyes. "I don't know. Mile? Maybe less?" I pulled out the GPS, checked our position. According to the unit, we traveled 3.2 miles from the trailhead. The truck should be 3.2 miles behind us, southwest. In the burned forest, with good visibility, you can sometimes see a long way. But 3 miles? Through terrain with elevation changes? I looked at the map, and at the truck, and at the GPS coordinates. Ryan asked, "Problem?" "We should be over 3 miles from the truck, but I can see it right there." "Yeah, weird perspective, I guess. The burn makes everything look closer." That made sense. Sort of. Fire creates open sightlines, removes the visual clutter, but still, 3 miles should put the truck well out of sight, even in open country. I checked the compass. Our bearing was correct. Northeast. The truck was southwest. The direction was right. Just the distance felt wrong. "Let's keep going," I said. We hiked another mile. I checked the GPS. At 4 miles total, looked back. The truck was still there. Same distance. Maybe a mile away. Maybe less. I stopped again. Ryan saw my expression. "What?" "We've walked 4 miles. The truck should be 4 miles behind us, but it looks like it's right there. Maybe the GPS is off. Maybe." I checked the unit. Battery was good. Satellite signal was strong. 12 satellites locked. H-stop of point 0.8. The GPS was fine. The readings were accurate, but the truck looked close enough to walk to in 15 minutes. We kept walking. I didn't say anything to Ryan. Didn't want to sound paranoid, but I kept checking every few minutes, looking back at the truck. At 5 miles, it was closer, definitely closer, maybe half a mile. Ryan saw it too. He didn't say anything, but I saw him looking back, frowning. I checked the GPS. 5.1 miles from the trailhead. The numbers were clear. We'd covered 5 miles. I looked at the rock formation ahead. We'd been walking toward it for over an hour. It didn't look any closer. "We're turning around," I said. Ryan looked relieved. "Yeah, okay." We turned southwest, started hiking back toward the truck. I kept the GPS unit on, and watched the numbers change as we walked. After 10 minutes, the GPS said we'd covered point 0.3 miles. I looked up. The truck looked farther away, maybe a mile and a half now. I stopped, looked at Ryan. "Did we just walk away from the truck?" I asked. He looked at it, looked at the GPS in my hand. "I don't know." I checked the compass. We were heading southwest, directly toward the parking area. The GPS track confirmed it. We were moving in the right direction. But the truck looked farther. "Keep walking," I said. We walked for another 20 minutes. The GPS said we'd covered point 0.8 miles total. We should be getting close. We'd started 5 miles out. We'd walked point 0.8 back. That put us at about 4.2 miles from the truck. I looked up. The truck was farther, at least 2 miles, maybe more. Ryan said, "This doesn't make sense." "I know." I stopped, pulled out the map, tried to orient myself using visible landmarks. The rock formation was behind us now. We'd passed it. That was something. The terrain looked right. The slope was correct. We were descending gradually, heading back the way we'd come. But the truck wasn't getting closer. It was getting farther. I looked at the burned forest around us. Black trunks everywhere, open sight lines, no obstructions, no reason we shouldn't be able to walk in a straight line back to the truck. I checked the GPS track log. It showed our path, a clean line from the trailhead to our current position. 5 miles out, point 0.8 miles back. The data was correct, but the visual didn't match. Ryan pulled out his water bottle, took a long drink. "Should we call someone?" No signal. Radios are line of sight only. And who would we call? I don't know. This is just wrong. I looked at the sun. It was almost noon. We'd been out here 5 hours. We had plenty of water, plenty of food, 6 more hours of daylight minimum. We keep walking, I said. Don't stop. Don't second guess. Just walk. We walked for an hour straight, didn't check the GPS, didn't look at the map, just walked, boot in front of boot, southwest, toward where the truck should be. After an hour, I checked the GPS. We'd covered 1.6 miles. I looked up. The truck was right there, 50 feet away. Ryan saw it, said, "What the hell?" I didn't answer. We walked to the truck. I reached out, touched the hood. Real, solid, warm from sitting in the sun all morning. I checked the GPS one more time. zero point 0.0 miles from the trailhead. We were back. I opened the driver's door. Got in. Ryan got in. Passenger side. We sat there. Didn't talk. Just sat. After a minute, I started the engine, put it in gear, drove back down the forest roads toward the highway. Ryan finally spoke. What just happened? I don't know. The GPS said we were 5 miles out. I know, but we could see the truck the whole time. I know. And when we walked toward it, it got farther away until it didn't. He looked at me. That's not how distance works. I know. We drove in silence for 10 minutes. Then Ryan said, "Are we going to tell anyone?" I thought about it. Thought about explaining this to our boss, to the Forest Service contract manager. What would I say? The distance didn't work right. The truck stayed the same distance no matter how far we walked. We could see it, but we couldn't reach it until we stopped trying to make sense of it. No, I said, we're not telling anyone. What about the survey? The monuments? We'll tell them we couldn't locate them. Weather was bad. Visibility was poor. Something. I'll think of something. But the weather was perfect. I know. We got back to the office at 3 in the afternoon. My boss asked how it went. I told him we couldn't find the monuments. Said the fire damage was worse than the old plats indicated. Recommended sending a different crew with better equipment. He said fine, we'd try again next week. We didn't try again. The contract got reassigned to another crew 2 weeks later. I requested to be taken off it. Didn't give a reason. My boss didn't push. I'd been with the company for 8 years. Never asked to skip a job before. He trusted my judgment. I heard later that the other crew finished the survey, found all the monuments, set the new ones. Took them 3 days total, no problems, standard job. Ryan quit 2 months later, took a job in Tucson, residential surveying, nothing in the forest. We don't talk. I'm still surveying, still working for the same company, but I don't take Forest Service contracts anymore. I stick to town work, subdivisions, commercial lots, places where the map matches the ground, where distance behaves the way it's supposed to, because I know what happened out there, even if I can't explain it. The truck didn't move. We moved, but we moved wrong. Like the space between us and the truck was folding, extending. We'd walk a mile and the distance would stretch to 2 miles, 3 miles. Like something was keeping us out there, keeping us walking, adjusting the terrain as we moved. Um, I thought about it a lot, tried to make sense of it, read about spatial anomalies, magnetic interference, perceptual distortions caused by terrain and atmosphere. None of it fits. The only thing that makes sense, if you can call it sense, is that something out there didn't want us to leave. Not yet. It wanted us to keep walking, keep trying, keep moving deeper into territory that looked familiar but wasn't quite right. And the moment we stopped trying to figure it out, the moment we just walked without thinking, without checking the GPS, without analyzing the distance, that's when it let us go. Like it lost interest, like we stopped being entertaining. I think about the rock formation, how we walked toward it for an hour and it never got closer. And then suddenly we'd passed it without noticing, without seeing the moment when it went from ahead of us to behind us. I think about the GPS track, how it showed a clean straight line, how all the data was correct, how the satellites and coordinates and measurements all lined up perfectly. but the reality didn't match. The ground didn't behave. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we'd kept trying to reach the truck the normal way, if we'd kept checking the GPS, if kept trying to make the math work. Would we still be out there, walking forever through burned forest, watching the truck recede with every step? Or would we have eventually given up, sat down to rest, and then what? Would the forest have kept us? Would someone find our gear months later, laid out neatly, with us nowhere to be found? I don't know, and I don't want to know. But I'll tell you this: if you're ever out hiking, surveying, hunting, whatever, and you look back and the trailhead seems closer than it should be or farther, don't stop to figure it out. Don't pull out your GPS 10 times trying to make the numbers make sense. Don't try to solve the problem. Just pick a direction and walk. Steady, committed. Don't look back. Don't second guess. Don't analyze. Because the moment you stop, the moment you start questioning, you're giving something time to adjust, time to fold the space around you, time to make the familiar path unfamiliar. And if it's adjusting the path, it's leading you somewhere, somewhere you didn't plan to go, somewhere the map doesn't show. I've seen the missing persons reports from that area. Not many, but enough to notice a pattern. Hikers who went out and never came back. Hunters who knew the forest better than their own backyards, who somehow got turned around and vanished. Search parties that found gear but no bodies. One case from 2015, a woman, experienced hiker, had a GPS unit with her. They found her backpack 3 miles from the trailhead, found her GPS unit still recording. The track log showed she'd walked in circles for 6 hours, covering the same ground over and over. 12 miles of walking, but never more than a quarter mile from her starting point. They never found her. Um, Another case from 2019, a bow hunter, local guy, had been hunting that area for 20 years, knew every trail, every landmark. His truck was found at a Forest Service pullout. His bow and pack were found 2 miles away. The GPS on his phone showed he'd walked 15 miles in 8 hours, but the entire track was contained in a 1 square mile area, like he'd been walking through space that was bigger on the inside than the outside. They never found him either. I don't know if those cases are related to what happened to us, but I think about them. I think about that burned forest, about how open it was, how you could see for miles, how the landmarks were clear and the terrain was mapped and everything should have been straightforward. But it wasn't, because something out there doesn't follow the rules, doesn't care about GPS coordinates or compass bearings or survey plats. It bends space, stretches distance, makes the familiar strange. And the only way out is to stop trying to understand it, stop trying to fix it. Just walk. Trust your feet more than your instruments. Trust your gut more than the math. Ryan and I got lucky. We figured it out before we'd gone too far, before whatever was adjusting the distance decided to keep us. But I think about that a lot, about how close we came, about how we could still be out there, walking through burned forest, watching the truck hover just out of reach, convinced we're making progress when we're really just being herded deeper and deeper into territory that doesn't exist on any map. I don't survey in the forest anymore, and I don't hike alone. And if I'm ever out with someone and the distances start feeling wrong, if we're walking uphill but going downhill, if landmarks don't get closer, if the trailhead looks too near or too far, I turn around immediately. No discussion, no debate, no trying to figure it out. Just turn around and leave while you still can, while the exit is still there. Because once it closes behind you, once you've walked too far into space that shouldn't exist, you don't get out. You just keep walking forever, covering miles that don't take you anywhere, following a map that stopped matching the ground the moment you stopped paying attention. And eventually, someone finds your gear, your GPS showing impossible tracks, your map with coordinates that lead nowhere, but they never find you. I need to tell you about something else that happened that day. Something I didn't mention to Ryan. Something I've never told anyone. When we were out there, when the distances weren't making sense, I started noticing other things, small things, details that didn't quite fit. The shadows were wrong. I'm a surveyor. I pay attention to sun angles, to shadows. I use them for navigation sometimes, for estimating time. The sun was tracking across the sky normally, rising in the east, moving west, but the shadows from the burned trees, they weren't pointing the right direction. At one point, around 10 in the morning, the sun was southeast. The shadows should have been pointing northwest, but they were pointing north, straight north. Like the sun was directly east, even though it wasn't. I didn't say anything to Ryan. Thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was disoriented. But I checked my compass. It still pointed north. The direction was consistent, but the shadows weren't. And there was something else. The burned trees, the standing dead, there were thousands of them, black pillars stretching in every direction. And as we walked, I started noticing that some of them were moving. Not falling, not swaying in wind, moving, shifting position slightly. I'd see a distinctive tree, one with a split trunk, or a lightning scar, or a particular lean. I'd note its position relative to our path. Then 10 minutes later, I'd see the same tree, but it would be in a different spot, 20 degrees to the left, or closer, or farther. At first, I thought I was mistaking different trees for the same one. Burned ponderosas all look similar, but I started marking them mentally, counting. There was one tree with 3 branches still attached, all pointing east. I saw it 5 times in an hour, in 5 different locations, each time roughly the same distance from our path, each time on the right side, but never in the same spot twice. That's when I realized we weren't walking through normal space. We were walking through something that was adjusting itself, rearranging, keeping us disoriented. I didn't tell Ryan because I didn't want him to panic, didn't want both of us losing our grip. One of us needed to stay calm, stay rational, keep us moving. But I knew we were in something, something that was bigger on the inside than it should be, something that was keeping us walking, watching us, maybe studying us. There's a term in surveying, reentrant. It's a terrain feature, a valley or draw that curves back into itself. Makes it hard to navigate because you think you're going one direction, but the terrain is actually turning you around. That's what this felt like, except it wasn't terrain, it was space itself. We were walking in a straight line according to our instruments, but space was curved, bent, looping back on itself. And the only way out was to stop trying to navigate it, stop trying to map it, just walk until it decided to let us go. When we finally reached the truck, when we got back, I checked the GPS track one more time before I turned off the unit. The track showed a straight line, 4 miles out, 4 miles back, 8 miles total in a straight corridor. But I know we walked more than that. I know we covered ground that didn't show up on the track, ground that folded and stretched and shifted while we moved through it. The GPS just couldn't see it. The satellites couldn't see it. The coordinates couldn't capture it because it existed in space that doesn't follow the rules. I kept the GPS data, saved it to the computer back at the office. I've looked at it dozens of times. The track is clean, straight, normal, nothing unusual about it. But I know what we walked through. I know what we saw. And I know that somewhere in that burned forest, there's a space where distance doesn't work, where the terrain shifts, where you can walk forever and never arrive. And I know we're not the first ones to find it. After that day, I started researching, looking into the history of that area, The Schultz fire burned in 2010, but that section of forest has a longer history. In 1992, a Forest Service crew went missing. Three people, experienced wilderness workers. They were doing a timber cruise assessing trees for harvest. They had GPS units, radios, all the equipment. They went out one morning and never came back. Search and rescue found their gear 4 days later, spread out over a quarter-mile area, GPS units still running. The track data showed they'd walked in expanding spirals for 6 hours. Started in a tight circle, each loop getting bigger. The final track showed them walking a spiral 3 miles in diameter before the GPS units ran out of battery. They never found the crew, listed them as lost in the wilderness, presumed dead. In 2003, a solo hiker vanished in the same area. Experienced backpacker had a satellite GPS with tracking enabled. His wife could see his location update in real time on her computer at home. She watched him hike in, watched the little dot on the map moving steadily northeast. Then the dot started behaving strangely, moving in jagged patterns, jumping back and forth across the same section of trail. The elevation data showed him climbing and descending hundreds of feet, but the topographic map showed flat terrain. The updates continued for 3 hours, the dot moving in impossible patterns. Then it stopped, right in the middle of the burned area. They found his body 2 weeks later, 5 miles from where the GPS said he'd stopped. Found him sitting against a tree. No injuries, no signs of exposure, just sitting there, dead. Like he'd sat down to rest and never got up. The autopsy said heart failure, but he was 34 years old, healthy, no history of heart problems. I think he walked until he couldn't anymore, until the space he was in broke something fundamental in his body, in his mind, and he just stopped. There are more cases, going back decades, but they're scattered through different agencies, different jurisdictions, Forest Service, county sheriff, state police. No one's connected them because they don't look connected. Different years, different circumstances, different causes of death when bodies are found. But they all happen in the same area, in that section of burned forest northeast of Flagstaff, in space that doesn't follow the rules. I think about what might be causing it: magnetic anomaly, volcanic activity creating strange gravitational effects, quantum fluctuation in local space-time, all the scientific explanations, but none of them fit. None of them explain why it's selective, why some people walk through fine and others get caught, why the Forest Service crew that surveyed it after us had no problems, unless it's not about the space, unless it's about the people, about something recognizing when you're alone, when you're vulnerable, when you're isolated enough to be pulled into somewhere else. Ryan and I were alone out there, no cell service, no one knowing exactly where we were, just two people in burned forest, walking through terrain that had already died once. Maybe that made us visible. Maybe that made us vulnerable. Maybe something that lives in the spaces between spaces saw us and decided to see how far we'd walk before we figured it out. We figured it out. We got out. But I think about the others who didn't, the ones who kept walking, kept trying to navigate, kept trusting their instruments even as the world around them bent and stretched and refused to make sense. I think they're still out there, in a way, walking through spirals that expand forever, through terrain that shifts with every step, through burned forest that goes on with no end because the space inside it is bigger than the space it occupies. And maybe sometimes when people hike through that area now, they see things, figures in the distance, people walking, never getting closer, never getting farther, just walking forever. I don't go back there, ever. Won't take jobs in that area. Won't hike that section of the Coconino. Don't care how good the trails are or how beautiful the views might be, because I know what's there, what's waiting in the burned forest, in the space that doesn't measure right. And I know that next time I might not figure it out in time, might not stop trying to navigate, might walk too far into the bent space and find that the exit has closed behind me. So I stay away, and I tell the story when I can, when people will listen, when it might keep someone else from walking into terrain where the map stops working. If you work outdoors, surveying, forestry, search and rescue, trail maintenance, anything that puts you in remote areas alone, pay attention to the distances. If they start feeling wrong, if the landmarks won't get closer, if your GPS track starts showing patterns that don't make sense, get out immediately. Don't try to complete the job. Don't try to figure it out. Don't try to navigate your way through. Just pick a direction away from where you are and walk hard, fast. Don't stop. Don't look back. Don't check your instruments. Walk until you see something man made, a road, a building, a fence, a power line, something that proves you're back in space, that follows the rules. And when you get back, don't go back out. Not to that area. Not ever. Because the space that bent once will bend again. And next time, it might not let you go. If you're in land surveying or outdoor work, or you just like hearing about the places where reality doesn't quite match up, hit subscribe. I've got more stories, real stories, from places where the instruments lie and the map doesn't help. And if you've ever had the distances feel wrong, if you've ever walked for hours and looked back to see you haven't moved, if you've ever checked your GPS and seen track data that made no sense, drop a comment. Let's compare notes. Let's figure out where these spaces are. Let's warn people, because they're out there. The bent spaces, the folded places, the terrain that's bigger inside than out. And they're waiting for people who walk alone, who trust their instruments, who think they can navigate through anything. They're waiting to show you just how wrong the map can be. Stay safe out there and trust your gut over your GPS. The footsteps stayed exactly 40 feet back for 6 straight hours, matching every turn I made. I'm a wildland firefighter, seasonal work. I do it from May through October. Then I work construction in the off season to keep the bills paid. Been doing it for 7 years now. I'm based out of Missoula, Montana, but I've worked fires all over the West: California, Oregon, Idaho, Nevada, Washington, wherever they need bodies, and I can get assigned. The work is hard: digging fire line, clearing brush, running chainsaws for 12 hours straight, breathing smoke, sleeping in fire camps. It's miserable and exhausting, and I love it. Something about being useful, about actually stopping something destructive, about working with your hands and your back and seeing real results. In August of 2021, I was assigned to the Dixie Fire in Northern California. If you follow the news that summer, you know about it. It was massive, nearly 1 million acres, one of the biggest fires in California history. We were working 12-hour shifts minimum, sometimes longer, digging line, clearing fuel, setting backfires, hard, dirty work that emptied your head of everything except the task in front of you. On August 19th, I was part of a 4-person crew doing mop-up work in a section east of Lake Almanor. Mop-up is what it sounds like. The main fire's moved on, pushed by wind or knocked down by retardant drops, and you're left checking for hot spots, smoldering logs, underground root fires, anything that could flare back up. It's tedious work. You walk the burn area with a Pulaski that's a combination axe and adze and a water pack strapped to your back. You chop into anything that looks suspicious, spray it down, move to the next spot. Our crew was spread out across maybe a quarter-mile section. Protocol is to stay within visual range of each other when possible, but the terrain was rough. Burned timber everywhere, fallen logs, ash pits. Visibility was limited, maybe 50, 60 feet in some areas before the standing dead blocked your line of sight. We had radios. We checked in every 30 minutes, called out positions, confirmed everyone was accounted for. I was working the eastern edge of our section. There was a ridge line about a quarter mile ahead of me. My assignment was to clear everything up to that ridge, then loop back west to rejoin the crew. Estimated time was about 3 hours of work. I started at 9 in the morning. The ground was ash and charcoal. Everything was black. Tree trunks were still standing, but they were brittle, burned through. No canopy at all. The sun was direct and hot. Temperature was probably mid-80s, but in full sun with no shade, it felt like 100. I was drinking water every 15 minutes, draining my pack. At 9:30, I heard footsteps behind me. Crunch, step, crunch, step, boot on ash. The same sound I was making as I walked. I turned around. No one there. I waited, listened. The footsteps stopped. I figured it was one of my crew, maybe Jordan, the crew lead, checking on my progress. I keyed my radio. Anyone coming up behind me on the east side? Static. Then Jordan's voice. Negative. You're the farthest out. Why? Thought I heard something. Probably just a snag falling. Stay alert. Report if you see anything actively burning. Copy. I went back to work. Chopped into a log that looked like it might be smoldering inside. Sprayed it down. Moved forward. The footsteps started again. Same rhythm, same cadence. Matched my pace exactly. Boot on ash. Crunch. Step. Crunch. Step. I stopped. The footsteps stopped. I walked. They walked. I turned around fast this time. Spun 180 degrees. Scanned the burn area behind me. Nothing. Just blackened trees and ash and the shimmer of heat coming off the ground. I tried to see tracks, but the ground was ash. Everything left prints. Wind moved the ash constantly. I couldn't tell what was fresh and what was old. Couldn't tell if someone was actually back there or if I was hearing things. I kept working, tried to ignore it, moved up the slope toward the ridge. The footsteps stayed with me, 40 paces back, maybe 50. Hard to tell exactly, but consistent. Every time I moved, they moved. Every time I stopped, they stopped. At 10:15, I keyed the radio again. Jordan, you sure no one's working near me? Positive. Everyone's accounted for west of your position. What's going on? I keep hearing footsteps, like someone's pacing me. Pause. Could be wildlife. Maybe an elk. Elk, don't walk in rhythm with me. Another pause. You feeling okay? Heat getting to you? I checked my water. About half full. I've been drinking regularly. Felt fine. No dizziness, no confusion. I'm fine. Just something's back there. Keep your radio on. Call if it gets worse. I reached the ridge line at 11, took a break, sat on a log, drank water, ate a protein bar, looked back at the route I'd covered, and I saw it. A figure standing in the burn area, maybe 50 feet back from where I'd stopped. Just standing there, not moving. I stood up. Hey, the figure didn't respond. I waved my arm. You with the fire crew? Nothing. I started walking toward it. The figure turned, started walking away, same pace as me, steady, not hurrying, not running, just maintaining distance. I walked faster. It walked faster. I stopped. It stopped. I keyed the radio. Jordan, there's definitely someone out here. Can you identify them? Civvies. I don't know. They're not answering, not responding to voice, just walking, keeping distance. Get a visual, make sure they're not injured. Could be a hiker who got disoriented by the fire. Copy. I followed the figure for 10 minutes. It stayed ahead of me, 40, 50 feet. Every time I closed the distance, it adjusted, walked faster, kept the gap. I called out again. Hey, do you need help? Are you injured? Nothing. The figure kept walking, leading me west now, away from the ridge, away from my assigned area. I checked my GPS. I was moving off course, away from the crew. I stopped. I'm not following you anymore. The figure stopped, turned around. For the first time, I could see it clearly. It looked like me. Same height, same build, same yellow no-neck shirt, same green fire pants, same boots. But something was wrong. The face was blurred, like looking at someone through a dirty window. Features were there but indistinct. Couldn't make out eyes or mouth clearly. I stepped back. The figure tilted its head, mimicked my posture exactly. Hands at sides, weight on left foot, same stance I was in. I keyed the radio. Didn't take my eyes off it. Jordan, I need you to confirm something. How many people are on this crew? 4. You, me, Alex, and Sam. Why? What's happening? Are you sure? You're absolutely sure it's just 4 of us? Positive. Tyler, what's going on? I looked at the figure. It was wearing my face, my clothes, my gear, but it wasn't me. I'm coming back to the group, I said. Right now. Copy that. We're at the staging area, half-mile west of your position. I backed up, kept my eyes on the figure. It didn't follow, just stood there, watching. When I had put about 20 feet between us, I turned, started walking back toward the crew, fast. Not running. Running in fire gear on rough terrain is a good way to break an ankle, but moving quick. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Crunch, step, crunch, step. Same rhythm, same cadence, 40 feet back. I didn't turn around, just walked, checked the GPS, corrected my bearing toward the crew, kept moving. The footsteps matched me, every step, every turn. When I adjusted my path around a fallen log, I heard it adjust. When I slowed to navigate rough terrain, it slowed. I radioed Jordan. 3 minutes out, don't move, stay together. Roger. Everything all right? No, but I will be. Just stay put. I saw the crew at 11:30. Jordan, Alex, Sam, all 3 of them, standing in a clearing, drinking water, taking a break. I reached them, turned around. The footsteps had stopped, but I didn't see anyone. Jordan stood up. What happened? Someone was following me. Where? I pointed behind me. Right there, 40 feet back, for the last hour. All 3 of them looked. Alex squinted into the burn area, shook his head. I don't see anyone. It was there. Looked exactly like me. Sam asked, You drinking enough water? I checked my pack. Almost empty. I'd been drinking constantly. Yeah. Jordan scanned the area with binoculars, took his time, checked every angle. After a minute, he lowered them. Nothing. No movement. No heat signature. I'm telling you. I believe you saw something, Jordan cut in. His voice was calm, professional. Heat, smoke, stress it does things to your head. You wouldn't be the first firefighter to see things out here. I wanted to argue, but I also wanted to stay on this crew, wanted to keep working. If I pushed too hard, they'd pull me off the line, send me back to camp, make me see the medic. You're probably right, I said. Jordan studied me. Let's work together for the rest of the day. Stay tight. No one spreads out. Agreed? Agreed. We worked the rest of the shift as a unit, never more than 10 feet apart, cleared the remainder of our section. No problems, no footsteps, no figures. At 6 in the evening, we hiked back to the fire camp. I didn't look behind me, didn't check to see if anything was following. That night in my tent, I couldn't sleep, kept hearing it, boot on ash, crunch, step, crunch, step. The next morning, I requested reassignment. Told the operations chief I wanted to work roads, infrastructure support, less direct fire work. He didn't ask why, just nodded and moved me to a different crew. I finished the season on road duty, fewer hours, easier work, safer. I went home to Missoula in October, picked up construction work, tried not to think about it. But in December, something happened that brought it all back. I was hiking alone in the Rattlesnake Wilderness north of Missoula. It's a place I've been going since I moved to Montana. 30 miles of trails, usually empty in winter. Good place to clear your head. I was 2 miles in on the main corridor trail. Snow on the ground, maybe 6 inches. Fresh from a storm 2 days before. Clear day, cold, quiet. I heard footsteps behind me. Crunch, step, crunch, step. Boot on snow. Same rhythm, same cadence. I stopped. The footsteps stopped. I turned around. No one there, but I saw tracks, boot prints, my size, my tread pattern, Merle Moab's, same boots I was wearing, following mine, exactly 40 feet back. I looked at them, fresh, clear, deep in the snow. I started walking again, faster now. The prints appeared behind me. I could hear them forming. Crunch, step. I walked faster. They kept pace. I reached a creek. Water was partially frozen, ice on the edges, current in the middle. There was a footbridge, just logs lashed together crossing it. I crossed, stopped on the far side, looked back. The footprints came to the edge of the creek, stopped at the water, didn't cross. I waited, watched. The prints didn't advance, just stopped, like whatever was making them couldn't cross running water. I kept walking, put another half mile between me and the creek. Didn't hear the footsteps again. I hiked out, drove home. Haven't been back to that trail since. I've thought about it a lot, about what it was, what it wanted, why it followed. Best I can figure, it was pacing me, testing me, seeing how far I'd go before I acknowledged it, before I turned around and really looked at it. And when I did look at it, when I saw it clearly in that burned forest, it showed me myself, my face, my clothes, my posture, like it was learning, studying, figuring out how to be me. I think if I'd followed it longer, if I'd engaged with it, if I'd talked to it or tried to interact, it would have gotten better at the imitation, would have refined the face, sharpened the features, learned my voice, my mannerisms, and eventually maybe it would have been good enough to replace me, to walk back to the crew wearing my face, doing my job, being me better than I could, and I'd be, what, stuck in the burn area? Erased? Absorbed? I don't know. What I do know is that it followed me for 6 hours, matched my pace exactly, stayed exactly 40 feet back, never closing the distance, never falling behind, just pacing, watching, learning. And when I finally acknowledged it, when I looked right at it and saw what it was doing, that's when it showed itself. That's when it revealed that it had been studying me the whole time. I got lucky. I had a crew to go back to, people who could verify I was real, that I was myself. If I had been alone, really alone, no one expected me back, no one to notice if I was different, I think it would have followed me all the way out, all the way back to camp, all the way home. And somewhere along the way, it would have stopped being the follower and become the followed, would have become me, and I would have become nothing. I still work fires, still do seasonal wildfire work, but I don't work alone anymore, ever. I stay with my crew, within line of sight, and if I hear footsteps that match my rhythm, if I see tracks that shouldn't be there, I head for water immediately. Creeks, rivers, streams, anything with a current. Because whatever it is, whatever does the pacing, the matching, the learning, it won't cross running water. It stops at the edge, waits, watches you go, and maybe it stays there. Or maybe it finds someone else to pace, someone else to study, someone alone enough, isolated enough that no one would notice if they came back different. If you work in remote areas, fire, forestry, trail work, survey, anything that puts you out alone and you hear footsteps matching yours, don't turn around, not right away. Head for water first, cross it, Put it between you and whatever's back there. And if you see your own face looking back at you, if you see yourself standing 40 feet away, watching you, learning you run, don't try to understand it. Don't try to communicate. Just run for water and don't stop until you're across because it's studying you, learning how to be you. And the more you engage, the better it gets. I need to tell you about the other encounters because it didn't stop after that first time in California. 3 weeks after the Dixie Fire, I was assigned to a smaller fire in Central Oregon, the Grandview Fire. Only about 5,000 acres, but it was in rough terrain, steep canyons, dense timber. The kind of fire that burns hot and moves fast through the fuel. I was on a Type 2 hand crew, 20 people. We were cutting fire line along a ridge, trying to keep the fire from jumping to the next drainage. Hard work, steep slope, thin air at elevation. Around 3 in the afternoon, I volunteered to scout ahead, check the terrain, see if the line we were cutting would connect properly to a natural fire break or rock outcrop about a quarter-mile north. Jordan, my crew boss, gave me a radio and told me to check in every 15 minutes. I headed up the ridge, alone. 5 minutes in, I heard them. Footsteps behind me. Same rhythm, same cadence. I stopped, keyed the radio. Jordan, anyone else scouting ahead? Negative. You're solo. Why? Just checking. I kept moving. The footsteps continued. I counted paces this time, exactly 40 feet back, every time. I reached the rock outcrop. Good fire break. Natural barrier. I radioed Jordan with the information. Told him the line would work. Copy that. Head back. I turned around to head back down the ridge. The figure was standing there, 40 feet away. Same yellow Nomex, same green pants, same white hard hat, same face, my face, but clearer this time, more defined. The features were sharper than they'd been in California. Eyes, nose, mouth, all there, all almost right. But the expression was wrong, too neutral, too blank, like a mask. It tilted its head, mimicked my stance, hand on radio, weight on right foot. I keyed the radio without taking my eyes off it. Jordan, it's here again. What's here? The thing from California. It's standing right in front of me. Long pause. Tyler, are you? I'm fine. I'm looking right at it. 40 feet away, wearing my gear, my face. Get back to the crew. Now. Copy. I started walking. Gave the figure a wide berth. Moved around it in an arc, keeping distance. It didn't follow. Just watched. Turned its head to track my movement, but didn't take a step. I made it back to the crew. Told Jordan what I saw. He pulled me off the line. Sent me back to camp. Made me see the camp medic. The medic checked me over. Hydration, heart rate, blood pressure, pupils, all normal. She asked about sleep, stress, mental health. I told her I was fine. She cleared me to return to work but flagged my record. Said if it happened again, I'd need a full evaluation before I could return to fire duty. It happened again. 2 more times that season. Once in Idaho, once in Washington. Both times when I was working alone or separated from my crew. Both times the footsteps, the pacing, the figure wearing my face. And each time the face was clearer, more accurate, more me. By the Washington fire in late September, it looked exactly like me. Perfect copy. The only way I could tell it apart was the eyes. They were wrong. Too still. They didn't blink. Didn't track movement the way human eyes do. Just stared, fixed, like cameras. After Washington, I told Jordan I needed time off. Told him I was dealing with some personal stuff. He understood. Told me to take care of myself. Come back when I was ready. I went home to Missoula, took 2 months off, did construction work, stayed in town, didn't go hiking, didn't go into the wilderness, stayed around people. The footsteps stopped. But in December, like I said, I made the mistake of hiking alone, went to the Rattlesnake Wilderness, and it was there waiting. That's when I realized it wasn't tied to fire, it wasn't tied to burned forest or smoke or any specific location. It was tied to me, to being alone, to isolation. And it had been following me across 4 states, learning, improving, getting better at being me. I started doing research, trying to find similar cases, other people who'd been followed, other people who'd seen themselves. Found a forum, wildland firefighters sharing stories. There was a thread about doppelgangers in the burn. About a dozen people had similar experiences. Thing that looked like them, followed at a distance, never closed the gap, always stayed 40 to 50 feet back. Most of them had only seen it once. A few, like me, had seen it multiple times. One guy, username Smoke Jumper Mike, said he'd seen it 7 times over 2 seasons. Said it got more accurate each time. Said the last time it spoke, used his voice, said his name. He quit firefighting after that. Hadn't worked a fire in 3 years. I messaged him, asked what happened, asked how he got it to stop. He replied, I didn't. It still comes around sometimes. I see it in crowds, walking behind me on city streets. Same distance, same pace, but it won't follow me across water. That's the only place I feel safe, near rivers, near creeks. It stops at the edge every time. I asked if he'd ever tried to confront it, talk to it, figure out what it wanted. He said, yeah, once. Worst mistake of my life. Don't do it. Don't engage. It learns faster when you give it feedback. Just run, cross water, don't look back. I asked what happened when he confronted it. He never replied. I checked his profile. 2 weeks later, account deleted, no posts, no history, like he'd never existed. That scared me more than the thing itself. I started carrying a map of water sources everywhere I went, marked every creek, every river, every stream within 5 miles of anywhere I might be. If I heard the footsteps, I had an escape route planned. And I stopped working fire. Told my supervisor I was moving to full-time construction, year-round work, better pay, more stable. He understood, wished me well. That was 3 years ago. I still live in Missoula, still work construction, haven't been on a fire crew since 2021. And for a while, it worked. No footsteps, no figures, no seeing myself in the distance. But last month, something happened. I was working a residential framing job in Lolo, about 20 minutes south of Missoula. Big house, 3 floors. We were doing the second story framing, 6 guys on the crew. Around lunch, everyone went to their trucks to eat. I stayed on the second floor, ate my sandwich standing at the window, looking out at the forest beyond the construction site. I saw him, standing at the tree line, maybe 100 feet away, same height, same build, same work clothes I was wearing, blue jeans, red flannel, brown Carhartt jacket, same face, my face, perfect copy, just standing there, watching. I backed away from the window, went downstairs, walked to where the crew was eating. Hey, anyone else up on the second floor? I asked. They all looked at me, shook their heads. You sure? I just saw someone up there. One of the guys, Tony, stood up. I'll check. He went up, came back 2 minutes later. No one up there, Tyler. You good? I nodded. Yeah, must have been a reflection or something. But I knew better. It had found me. Even after 3 years away from fire, even in town, even around people, it had found me. I started seeing it more after that. Once a week, then twice a week, then daily, always at a distance, always watching, never approaching, always exactly me, perfect copy, except for the eyes. Last week, I was at the grocery store, saw him in the parking lot, standing by my truck, same clothes, same posture, waiting. I turned around, went back inside, called a friend, asked for a ride home. When we drove past my truck an hour later, he was gone. but my truck was unlocked, keys on the driver's seat, even though I'd locked it, even though I had the keys in my pocket. I checked my pockets. Keys were still there, but there were also keys in the truck. Identical keys, same key ring, same worn edge on the truck key from 6 years of use. I don't know how that's possible. I took both sets of keys, kept one in my pocket, one in a drawer at home. They're both still there, both real, both work. I don't understand it, but I think it's getting ready, getting close, learning the final details, figuring out how to be me completely. And I don't know what happens when it's done learning. When it's perfected the copy, I think about Smoke Jumper Mike, about how his account disappeared, about how he stopped responding, and I wonder if he's still out there, or if the thing that was learning him finally learned enough, finally became him, and the real Mike is somewhere else, erased, replaced. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know, need someone to have a record in case I disappear, in case my account goes dark, in case someone reading this sees me around town and notices my eyes don't blink quite right. If that happens, it's not me anymore. And I don't know where I'll be, but I'm going to try something. One last thing. I'm driving to the Clark Fork River tomorrow. There's a spot east of Missoula where it runs deep and fast, year-round current, never freezes completely. I'm going to camp there, right on the bank, see if it follows, see if it can cross. If it can't, maybe I can stay there. Build a cabin, live by the water, keep the current between me and it. If it can, well, then I'm out of options. And if you're reading this next week and there's a news story about someone found drowned in the Clark Fork, someone who looked like they just walked in and didn't come out, check the details, check if they found my body or if they found something wearing my face with eyes that don't blink, standing on the bank, watching the water, because I think that's what it wants, to become me completely, to take my place, to walk around in my skin, doing my job, living my life better than I ever could. And I think it's almost ready. So if you work outdoors, fire, construction, anything remote, and you hear footsteps matching yours, if you see yourself at a distance, if someone who looks exactly like you is pacing you, learning you, studying you, run for water, cross it, stay near it, and don't ever, ever try to talk to it. Don't engage. Don't give it more to learn because once it knows enough, once it's learned everything about you, it doesn't need you anymore. It just needs your life. And if you're into wilderness work or you've had your own experiences with things that shouldn't exist, hit subscribe. I'm documenting all of this, every sighting, every encounter. Maybe someone else can learn from it. Maybe someone else can figure out what these things are and how to stop them. And if you see me around Missoula, check my eyes. If they blink normal, if they track movement, if they look alive, it's still me. If they don't, run, cross water, and don't look back. Stay safe out there and stay near rivers. The security footage confirmed he was there every morning for 3 weeks before I noticed him. I work loss prevention for a regional grocery chain in New Mexico. 6 stores across the state: Farmington, Gallup, Grants, Los Lunas, Espa, Nola, and Taos. Corporate office is in Albuquerque, but I'm assigned to the Farmington location. Been there for 4 years now. Farmington sits in the northwest corner of the state. Population about 45,000. Oil and gas economy mostly. Navajo Nation borders to the west. High desert country, dry. The store I manage sits on East Main Street, right off Highway 550. It's the biggest grocery store in town, only one that runs 24 hours. We get steady traffic. My job is loss prevention. That means monitoring theft, investigating inventory discrepancies, reviewing security footage, coordinating with local law enforcement when necessary. Most of what I deal with is internal employee theft, vendor fraud, inventory shrinkage from damaged goods, boring work, methodical. I like it that way. No drama, just data and patterns. I've been working the same schedule since I started, Monday through Friday, 6 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon, 8-hour shifts. I get there before the morning rush, before most of the staff arrives. Park in the employee lot on the south side of the building. Same spot every day. Third row, second space from the end, closest spot to the back entrance. I'm a creature of habit. In March of 2023, our store manager, her name's Patricia, asked me to review footage for a shoplifting pattern. We'd been losing razor blades, high theft item, expensive, easy to conceal, small package, high value. We'd lost about $800 worth over 2 weeks. That's significant shrinkage. I pulled footage from the health and beauty aisle, reviewed 2 weeks of tape, tracked customers, noted patterns, times of day, frequency, physical descriptions. Found the guy on March 9th, white male, mid-30s, gray hoodie, jeans, work boots, came in at 7:30 in the morning, took 4 packages of Gillette Fusion razors, walked straight out, no attempt to pay, no attempt to conceal on camera, just walked in, took them, walked out, bold, confident, either stupid or experienced enough to not care about cameras. I flagged the footage, sent stills to Patricia. She filed a report with Farmington PD, got the guy trespassed from the property, legally barred from entering. Standard procedure. While I was reviewing that footage, scrubbing through the interior cameras, I decided to check the exterior parking lot feeds too. Sometimes shoplifters case the store first, sit in the parking lot, watch the patterns, figure out when security is paying attention and when they're not. We have 6 cameras covering the parking lot, 4 corners plus 2 on the building covering the main entrances. I was checking for the suspect's vehicle. That's when I saw him, a man standing near my truck. He wasn't doing anything suspicious, not breaking in, not looking in windows, just standing there, hands in his pockets, facing the store entrance. I checked the timestamp on the footage, March 7th, 5:53 in the morning, 7 minutes before I arrived for my shift. I frowned, scrubbed forward. At 6 exactly, I pulled into the lot, my white Toyota Tacoma. I parked in my usual spot, got out, grabbed my bag from the passenger seat, locked the truck, walked toward the back entrance. I walked right past him, maybe 15 feet away. On the footage, I didn't look at him, didn't acknowledge him, just kept walking toward the door. He stood there, watched me go inside, didn't move. 2 minutes later, he walked off camera, out of frame, toward the street. I rewound, watched it again. Who was this guy? Why was he standing by my truck at 6 in the morning? I checked the previous day's footage, March 6th, same time, 5:53. He was there, same spot, same posture, hands in pockets, waiting. At 6, I arrived, parked, walked past him. He watched, then left. I went back further, March 5th, there, March 4th, there, March 3rd, there. I started checking every day, going back every morning, same time, same spot, same behavior. 3 weeks. For 3 weeks, this man had been standing by my truck every morning, watching me arrive, watching me walk into the store, then leaving, and I'd never noticed him, never saw him, never registered his presence. My skin went cold. I saved all the footage, burned it to a USB drive, took it to Patricia. She watched it. Her expression went from curious to concerned. Do you know this guy? No, never seen him before. Not that I remember. He's been out there every morning for 3 weeks. Yeah, that's stalking. You need to file a police report. I called Farmington PD, non-emergency line, explained the situation. They said they'd send an officer over to take a statement. Officer arrived at 10. Young guy, probably late 20s. Name tag said Wilson. I showed him the footage. All 3 weeks. Same pattern. Every single morning. He asked if the man had ever approached me. I said no. He asked if the man had made any threats. I said no. He asked if the man had tried to contact me in any way. I said no. He took notes. Technically, he's not breaking any laws. Parking lot is public access during business hours. He's not trespassing unless we tell him to leave and he comes back. He's not making threats or contact. He's been there every morning for 3 weeks. Same time, same spot. That's not normal. No, it's not. But without direct threat or contact, there's not much we can do legally. If he approaches you, call us immediately. We'll trespass him from the property. But right now, I can't arrest him for standing in a parking lot. He took my contact information, said he'd file a report, told me to be aware of my surroundings, call if anything changed. Then he left. I went back to my office, pulled up the live parking lot feed, checked the time, 10:30, middle of my shift. The man was there, standing by my truck. I stood up, walked outside. The parking lot was busy, mid-morning, customers coming and going, cars everywhere. I walked toward my truck. The man saw me, didn't move, just watched. I got within 20 feet, stopped. He looked like me. Not exactly, but close, very close. Same height, about 6 feet. Same build lean, maybe 190. Same brown hair, same complexion, but his face was wrong. Features were similar but off. Eyes were too far apart. Mouth was too wide. Nose was the wrong shape. Like someone had described me to an artist and the artist had gotten most of it right, but not quite. I said, "Can I help you?" He didn't answer, just looked at me, no expression. "You need to leave. You're making me uncomfortable." He tilted his head slightly, like he was studying me, processing. I pulled out my phone. "I'm calling the police." He turned, walked away, slow, deliberate, not hurrying, walked across the parking lot onto East Main Street around the corner. Gone. I went back inside, called the police again, told them the man had been there, that I'd confronted him, that he'd left. They said they'd send someone. By the time Officer Wilson arrived 20 minutes later, the man was gone. Wilson took another statement, asked for a physical description. I gave it. He said they'd increase patrols in the area. Watch for someone matching that description. He left. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. About how the man looked like me, but not quite. About how he'd been there every morning for 3 weeks and I had never noticed. About how he'd watched me, studied me. I went home to my duplex on the north side of Farmington. I live alone, have a Ring doorbell, motion activated camera, records when someone approaches. I opened the app on my phone, checked the recent recordings. Nothing unusual. Mail carrier in the afternoon, neighbor walking their dog. Normal stuff. I went back further, checked March 1st, 5:30 in the morning, motion alert. I played it. The man was on my porch, standing there, facing my front door, just standing. He didn't knock, didn't try the door, just stood there. At 5:45, I came out, locked the door behind me, walked to my truck. On the footage, I walked right past him, less than 3 feet away. I didn't see him, didn't react, didn't acknowledge him at all, but he was there, clear as day on the video. I checked every day for 3 weeks, every morning at 5:30. He was on my porch, watching me leave for work. I called the police again. This time I was transferred to a detective, Detective Sarah Chen. She said she'd come by in the morning to look at the footage. She arrived at 8. I showed her everything. The parking lot footage from work, the Ring footage from home. 3 weeks of this man appearing in the same places at the same times. She took copies of everything. This is definitely stalking behavior. Consistent pattern. Same times, same locations. I'll file for a restraining order. Should be approved within a few days. Once we have that, if he comes within 100 yards of you or your property, we can arrest him. What if he's there before the order goes through? Call 911. We'll respond. We can at least talk to him, figure out who he is and what he wants. You have any idea who he is? She shook her head. Not yet, but we'll run his image through our databases, see if we get a match. He might have priors, might be known to us. She left. I went back to work, tried to focus, couldn't. At lunch, I checked the live parking lot feed again. He was there, standing by my truck, same spot. I grabbed my keys, walked outside fast. He was gone by the time I got there. I stood by my truck, looked around. The parking lot was full of cars, customers, employees. No sign of him. I got in my truck, locked the doors, sat there for 10 minutes, just watching. He didn't come back. That night, I didn't sleep. Sat in my living room with the lights on, curtains closed, kept checking the Ring app, watching the live feed from my porch. At 5:30 in the morning, the motion alert went off. I opened the app, watched the live feed. He was on my porch. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, told the dispatcher someone was outside my house, gave my address. They said officers were on the way. I watched the feed. He just stood there, didn't knock, didn't try the door, just stood. At 5:40, I heard sirens, saw red and blue lights reflecting in my windows. On the Ring feed, the man turned, walked off the porch, walked toward the street. I went to the window, looked out. Two patrol cars, officers getting out. They stopped him on the sidewalk, talked to him. I couldn't hear what they were saying. After 5 minutes, they let him go. He walked away, down the street, out of sight. The officers came to my door. I let them in, asked what he said. He said he was waiting for someone. Gave a name we didn't recognize. Said he had the wrong address. We took his information, but we can't detain him for standing on a public sidewalk. He's been here every morning for 3 weeks. We know. Detective Chen briefed us. She's working on the restraining order. Should have it in a couple days. What am I supposed to do until then? Be aware. Keep your doors locked. If he approaches you directly, call immediately. We're patrolling this area more frequently now. We'll keep an eye out. They left. I didn't go to work that day. Called in sick. Sat at home. Watched the Ring camera. Watched the street. He didn't come back. The restraining order was approved on March 17th. I picked it up from the courthouse, took it to the police station. They said they'd serve it if he came back. He didn't. For a week, nothing. No appearances at work, no appearances at home. The parking lot footage was clear. The Ring camera was quiet. I started to relax. Started to think maybe he'd gotten the message. Maybe the police visits had scared him off. Then on March 24th, Patricia called me into her office. Someone was here this morning asking about you, she said. My stomach dropped. Who? A man. Came in around 6. Asked what hours you work, what days, what vehicle you drive. I didn't give him any information. Told him I couldn't discuss employee details. He left. What did he look like? She described him. Same guy. Same wrong but close features. I called Detective Chen. She said she'd put out an alert. Extra patrols. They'd look for him. On March 27th, I was in my office at work. It was almost 2 in the afternoon. End of my shift. I was getting ready to leave, shutting down my computer, organizing my desk. I walked to the parking lot at 5 minutes to 2. He was sitting in my truck. Driver's seat, hands on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead through the windshield. I stopped, pulled out my phone, dialed 911. The dispatcher asked what was happening. I told her. She said officers were on the way. I stayed by the store entrance, watched the truck. He didn't move, just sat there, hands on the wheel. 3 minutes later, 2 patrol cars pulled into the lot. Officers approached my truck, one on each side. They opened the driver's door, pulled him out. He didn't resist, just stood there, calm, compliant. They searched him, found my keys, my wallet, my work badge, all the things I had left in my office, in my locked desk drawer. I had them with me when I walked out, but he had them too. The officers arrested him, handcuffed him, put him in the patrol car. One of the officers, it was Wilson, again came over to me. You all right? Yeah, we got him. Breaking and entering, theft, stalking. He's going to county. You'll need to come down to the station, file a full statement. Who is he? Wilson looked at his notes. He's not saying much. Didn't give us a name initially. No ID on him. We'll run his prints. Should have something soon. I went to the police station, filed a statement, told them everything, every appearance, every sighting, 3 weeks of stalking. They said they'd hold him overnight, process him, charge him. I'd need to testify eventually, but for now he was in custody. I went home, tried to sleep, couldn't. The next morning, Detective Chen called. We released him. What? Why? Prince didn't match anyone in the system. No warrants, no priors. He gave a name, James Patterson, but we can't verify it. No ID, no social security number on file. The DA declined to prosecute, said we didn't have enough evidence. He had my keys, my wallet. You searched him. He had my stuff. He claimed you gave them to him, said you were friends, that you let him borrow your truck. We can't prove otherwise. That's insane. I know, but without witnesses, without proof of how he got those items, the DA won't press charges. We had to let him go. Where is he now? Don't know. He walked out 2 hours ago. Haven't seen him since. I hung up, sat at my kitchen table, tried to process. He had my keys, my wallet, my badge, things that were in my locked drawer, things I still had in my pocket. I pulled out my keys, looked at them, checked my wallet, my badge, all there, all real. But he'd had copies, perfect copies, down to the wear patterns on my truck key, down to the stamps on my loyalty cards. How was that possible? I changed my locks that day, all of them. Front door, back door, deadbolts, called the locksmith, had everything rekeyed. I changed my schedule too. Started working 2 in the afternoon to 10 at night, different shift, different routine, different arrival times. For 2 weeks, nothing. No sightings, no appearances. I started to think he'd moved on, found someone else to watch, someone else to study. Then I was driving home one night, late, after 11, dark, empty roads. I saw him, standing on the corner of Main and Scott under a streetlight, wearing my clothes, my exact clothes, blue jeans, black jacket, white shirt, same outfit I was wearing at that moment. I drove past, looked in my rearview mirror. He was gone. I haven't seen him since. That was 3 months ago, but I check the parking lot footage every day at work. I check my Ring camera every night at home. I watch for him, wait for him, because I know he's still out there, still learning, still studying. And I know that the next time I see him, he'll be even more accurate, even more me. The face will be perfect. The mannerisms will be right. The voice, if he speaks, will be mine. And I won't be able to tell the difference unless I look at the eyes. The eyes are the only thing he can't get right. They're too still, too fixed. They don't track movement naturally, don't blink at the right intervals. If I see myself and the eyes are wrong, I'll know. It's not me, it's him. And if you see me around Farmington, check my eyes. If they move right, if they blink, if they look alive, it's still me. If they don't, well, then I don't know where I am. But that thing wearing my face will be living my life better than I ever did. If you work loss prevention, security, or any job where you review footage regularly, check the backgrounds, check the periphery, Look for patterns. Look for people who show up at the same times, same places, people who are there but shouldn't be, people who are watching because sometimes they're not just stalkers. Sometimes there's something else, something that's learning you, studying you, figuring out how to be you. And once they know enough, they don't need to watch anymore. They just need your place in the world. If this story made you check your security footage, good. Hit subscribe. I'll keep documenting this. Keep watching for them. Maybe someone else can learn from it. Maybe someone else will recognize the pattern before it's too late. And if you've ever had someone know your routine too well, if you've ever felt watched, if you've ever seen yourself where you shouldn't be, drop a comment. Let's compare notes. Let's figure out what these things are because I don't think I'm the only one being studied. Stay vigilant out there. Check your footage, check the faces, and check the eyes. I need to tell you what happened after I saw him on the corner that night because the story doesn't end there. I went home, locked all the doors, triple checked the new locks the locksmith had installed, checked every window, checked the Ring camera. Everything was secure. I sat in my living room, lights on, curtains drawn, tried to calm down, tried to rationalize what I'd seen. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was just someone who happened to dress like me. Farmington's a small town. People shop at the same stores, buy the same clothes. It could be a coincidence, but I knew it wasn't. At 2 in the morning, I heard a sound outside. Footsteps on my porch. I checked the Ring app. He was there, standing at my door, same as before, but this time he was wearing different clothes. The clothes I'd changed into when I got home: gray sweatpants, black hoodie, white socks. How did he know I'd changed after I got home, after I saw him on the corner? How could he already be wearing the same thing? Unless he was watching right now through a window, through a camera I didn't know about. I grabbed my phone, called 911 again. There's someone on my porch. Same person as before, the one you arrested and released. Dispatch said they'd send someone. Estimated time, 8 minutes. I watched the Ring feed. He stood there, completely still, face pointed at the camera, at me. The eyes. Even on camera, even in low light, I could see the eyes were wrong. Too still, too focused. At 2:05, I heard sirens, saw lights. On the Ring feed, he turned, walked away, slow, unhurried. The patrol car pulled up. Officer got out, different one this time. Name tag said Reyes. She looked around, checked the porch, the yard, the street, came to my door. He's gone. Which direction did he go? I showed her the Ring footage. She watched, took notes, radioed for another unit to search the area. I've read the reports, she said. Detective Chen has this flagged. We're taking it seriously, but we need to catch him in the act. We need to actually detain him while he's here. He's been here multiple times. You keep letting him go. We can't hold someone without charges. And every time we've contacted him, he hasn't broken any laws we can prove. Trespassing requires him to be told to leave and refuse. Stalking requires a pattern of threats. He's walking a very careful line. He's stalking me. I know, and we're documenting it, building a case. But it takes time. She left. I didn't sleep. Sat in the living room, watched the Ring camera feed, watched the street. At 5:30, the motion alert went off again. He was back. Same spot on the porch, same clothes, same posture. I didn't call the police. They'd already been here twice tonight. What would they do? I watched him on the screen. He stood there for 15 minutes, then he left. I started carrying a knife, small folding knife, legal to carry. Kept it in my pocket, kept it sharp. I started parking in different spots at work, never the same place twice, random rows, different times. He found me anyway. I'd see him in the parking lot, Different locations, different times, but always there, always watching. Sometimes he'd be wearing exactly what I was wearing. Sometimes he'd be wearing what I'd worn the day before or the day before that. Like he was going through my wardrobe in order, learning my patterns, my preferences. One day I wore a shirt I'd bought the day before, never worn. Still had the tags on it when I bought it. Cut them off that morning. Saw him at lunch. He was wearing the same shirt. No tags, properly fitted, like he'd owned it for weeks. That's when I knew he wasn't just watching my house. He was inside it somehow, going through my clothes, trying them on, learning how I wore them, how I moved in them. I installed interior cameras, living room, bedroom, hallway, checked them constantly, never saw him inside, but things would move slightly. A chair pushed in, a drawer not quite closed, my shoes in a different position. Little things, things I might not notice if I wasn't looking, but I was looking. I started marking things. Piece of tape on a drawer, positioned at an exact angle, pencil on a table, aligned with the wood grain, hair across the bathroom door, stuck with spit. Every day, something was disturbed. Every day, he'd been inside. I called a security company, had them sweep my place, check for hidden cameras, for bugs, for any surveillance equipment. They found nothing, but I knew he was watching, somehow. Detective Chen came by in early June, 3 months after this started. We've identified him, she said. Facial recognition hit on a database. His name is Andrew Keller, age 34. Lives in Bloomfield, about 15 miles east of here. What's his history? That's the strange part. Nothing. Clean record. No priors. No complaints. No red flags. Works as a machinist at a manufacturing plant. Steady job. Pays his taxes. On paper, he's completely normal. Normal people don't stalk strangers for months. I know. We did a wellness check at his apartment. Everything looked normal. Place was clean, organized. He was cooperative, answered our questions, said he didn't know who you were, said he'd never been to your house or your work. You saw the footage. I know, but he's denying everything. And without catching him in the act, without physical evidence, we can't charge him. So, what do I do? Keep documenting. Keep calling when he shows up. Eventually, he'll make a mistake, cross a line we can prosecute. Until then, stay aware, change your routines, make it harder for him to predict you. She left. I thought about what she said. Change your routines. I'd already changed my work schedule, changed my parking spots, changed my routes home. What else could I change? I decided to stop going home. I got a storage unit, put most of my stuff in it, started staying at different motels, different ones every few nights, never the same place twice in a row, never establishing a pattern. For 2 weeks, it worked. I didn't see him. The Ring camera at my empty apartment showed nothing. The parking lot at work was clear. I started to think I'd shaken him. Then one night, I was staying at a Super 8 on the west side of town, third floor, room 312. At 2 in the morning, I heard a knock. I looked through the peephole. He was standing there in the hallway, wearing my clothes, looking at the door. He knocked again. I didn't answer. Grabbed my phone, called 911. While I was talking to dispatch, he knocked one more time. Then he spoke. I know you're in there. My voice. Exactly my voice. Same tone. Same slight rasp I get late at night when I'm tired. I just want to talk. I didn't respond. Pressed my back against the wall. Held the knife in my other hand. I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to understand. Dispatch asked if I was safe, if I had a way out. I told her I was locked in, third floor, one door. She said police were 2 minutes away. He spoke again. I've been practicing, getting better. Do I sound right? I heard footsteps in the hall, heavy boots. running. Farmington police, hands where I can see them. Silence from the hallway. Then footsteps, moving away, fast. Suspect is running. South stairwell. More footsteps, radios crackling, shouts. 5 minutes later, an officer knocked on my door, identified himself. I let him in. He got away, went out the back exit. We searched the area. No sign of him. They took my statement, reviewed the motel's security footage, got a clear shot of him in the hallway, matched his face to Andrew Keller. We can charge him now, the officer said. Trespassing, menacing, maybe more. We have him on camera at a private residence knocking on your door after midnight. That's enough. They put out a warrant, searched his apartment in Bloomfield, found it empty, cleared out, like no one had ever lived there. Landlord said he'd moved out 2 days ago, paid through the end of the month, left no forwarding address. They searched his workplace. Coworkers said he'd quit, didn't give notice, just stopped showing up. He was gone. But I knew he wasn't really gone. He was just better at hiding now. I've seen him since then, 3 times, always at a distance, always watching. Once in the grocery store, in the frozen foods aisle, standing at the end looking at me. When I turned to look directly at him, he was gone. Once at a gas station, in my rearview mirror while I was pumping gas, standing across the street. When I turned around, nothing there. Once in my apartment, just a glimpse, a shadow moving in the hallway. When I checked, no one there, but my bedroom door was open. I'd closed it. I don't know what he wants, don't know what his end game is, but I think he's almost done, almost finished learning me. The last time I saw him, the shadow in my apartment 2 weeks ago, he looked perfect, exactly like me. The face was right, the posture was right, the walk was right. I only knew it was him because of the eyes. Still too still, still too fixed, but getting better. And I think when he gets the eyes right, when he can make them move and blink and look alive, he won't need to watch anymore. He'll just step into my life, start showing up at my work, my apartment, my routines, and people will think it's me because it will look like me, sound like me, act like me. And the real me, I don't know where I'll be. Maybe he'll get rid of me. Maybe he'll just replace me and I'll still be here, but no one will believe I'm real because the copy will be more convincing than the original. That's what I'm afraid of. That one day I'll wake up and there will be two of me, and the other one will be better at being me than I am, and everyone will believe him, not me. So I'm documenting this, writing it down, time stamping it, saving copies in multiple places. So if someone finds this, if someone reads this and recognizes the story, they'll know the person they're talking to might not be me. Check the eyes. If they don't blink right, if they don't move naturally, if they're too still, too focused, it's not me. It's Andrew Keller or whatever his real name is. The thing that's been studying me for 6 months, learning how to be me. And if I disappear, if my accounts go quiet, if people say I'm acting different, check the footage, check the cameras, look for the small details that don't match, because I think he's almost ready, almost perfect. And I don't know how to stop him. If you work security, loss prevention, anywhere you watch footage regularly, check the backgrounds, check for repeating faces, people who show up too often, too consistently, people who aren't shopping, aren't working, just watching. And if you see yourself where you shouldn't be, if you see someone who looks like you standing in the distance, if someone knows your routine better than they should run, change everything. Move if you have to, because once they've learned enough, once they've perfected the copy, they don't need you anymore. They just need your life, and they'll take it quietly, carefully, without anyone noticing until you're gone and they're you. If this made you check over your shoulder, good. Hit subscribe. I'm still documenting this, still watching, still looking for answers. And if you've ever felt studied, if you've ever had someone know too much about your patterns, if you've ever seen your own face looking back at you from somewhere impossible, drop a comment, tell your story. Because I don't think I'm alone in this. I think there are others. Others being watched, being learned, being replaced. Let's find each other. Let's compare notes. Let's figure out what these things are and how to stop them before it's too late, before we're all gone, before the copies are all that's left. Stay vigilant, check your footage, check the faces, and most importantly, check the eyes. They can't fake the eyes. Not yet. That's the only way you'll know. That's the only way you'll see the difference between the person you're talking to and the thing that's pretending to be them. Check the eyes. Always check the eyes.